If you're looking for Raiders head coaching rumors and some GM news, you are in the right place. I'm Mitchell Renz, host of the Raiders Report, and coming up here on today's show, that's all we're going to be doing. We're going to be talking a lot about Ben Johnson. We're going to talk about the two GM candidates that the Silver and Black requested to interview today. I'll give you my 2 cents on what I think about Jon-Eric Sullivan and John Spytek. I'll tell you this. One of those two dudes I like a little bit more than the other. But coming up here on today's show, BJ's in Las Vegas. I think they're starting to load up, and if anybody out there needs a BJ in Vegas, spam BJ down below. But also, one of the things that I want to talk about today are, with all the Raiders head coaching candidates, one of the questions that has been asked to me is, Mitch, if this guy's hired as head coach, who do you think will get paired with GM? So what I did today is I did a whole segment. And again, this is me doing my best guess analysis on if this person's hired a head coach, who would the GM be? Who would the OC be? Who would the DC be? That's this segment. Then I'm going to do a whole nother show around John Spytek and why I'm going to make a bold prediction. I don't even know if it's bold. John Spytek is going to be the Raiders' next general manager. Those are the 3 shows coming up here on today's program. We already got over 700 people here in the building, and I see Seth. I see Raul Martinez. What up, Rory? What up, Realist? Realist, I'm happy for you. I don't know if you know this, Chugs, but Realist ended up dropping to number 2 right before this show started, and I said, I'm not going to start this show until he washes his hands here a little bit. RJ Van, I see you. Seth, Jeremy Cole, Raul Martinez. Realist, I got you. Juan Hernandez, Jeff Garcia, Doc Holliday. I got a bunch of the OGs. We don't have to do, unless you want to do one. You kind of want to do one? We don't usually do a duck race on a Tuesday, but you know what? With 725 people here, I'm kind of down to do a duck race here on today's show.
Are y'all down? Are y'all down?
If you want to do a duck race, spam BJ down below. I see Slow Riding. What up? What up?
Why
Literally,
not?
the guy's name is What Up.
A little
What up?
A little Monday BJ action?
Dude, a little Monday BJ.
Oh, no, it's Tuesday.
Oh, yeah, it is Tuesday. Dude, I'm not kidding you. Since last week we worked like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, doing all those watch parties.
Is it Friday yet?
I've really lost track of my days. Like, I really, really, truly have. So, if anything weird happens, just know that we're going to do our best here to keep you guys up to date. But if anybody wants to get in, let's do a $10 Venmo at Mitchell Renz 365, and we'll end up doing this duck race near the end of today's show. I will say this. I want to get a lot of questions flowing, so use hashtag Raiders, or you can super check at those questions, comments on the show. Like I see Ian Coy right now. He goes, I want a Ben Johnson. And I mean, quite frankly, I want a Ben Johnson as well. I can't even tell you the last time that I had a Ben Johnson. I can't tell you the last time that I believed in a head coach here for the Raiders.
When you get married, you get a lot less Ben Johnsons in your life.
Well, luckily then I got a few months, and then I can get all the Ben Johnsons I want. We got 818 people here. Raider Muerte is sending in the good vibes. And realistically, the amount of good vibes that have been coming in, and it's literally since the season ended. I mean, when I think about how happy I was for the Raiders season, this probably was the most unhappy I've been for a season in a very long time. How miserable, at least I was. I'm not going to speak for all of you.
Yeah,
how miserable I was in December, and now I feel a lot better.
That's how I was before I found Game Time.
Oh, yeah?
I was miserable. I was like, all these ticketing apps are screwing me because they don't have all-in pricing. They don't have, they don't filter out all the fluff so you don't get the best bang for your buck on the app.
You know who I heard hates Game Time? Deonta Johnson.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to be a diva like Deonta Johnson. Game Time is focused on bringing people together in 2025 and creating lasting memories. I always say that you might not remember the score, but you're going to have those memories forever. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's Game Time. Also, huge shout out to our other sponsor here, PrizePicks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app out there. If you plan on hanging out with Chugs and I during the college football game next Monday, 6 days from now, Notre Dame, Ohio State, get a PrizePicks lineup in. If you plan on watching any of the playoff games, I'm going to be live on Saturday, definitely for the Texans-Chiefs game. I was told maybe for the Lions-Ben Johnson game. I'm going to need y'all's help in order for me to get in that one. However, though, if you want to roll with, I want to say this is Chugs' lineup.
This is my divisional round lineup.
Talk to me, Chugs. All right, so we got a lot of mores in here.
Life's too short to take the less. I'm going more on C.J. Stroud rush yards.
Okay.
More on Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson rush yards. I'm going Nico Collins. He's going to get a touchdown, so I'm going more on the rushing receiving. James Cook, I like the combos, the little combination.
I like the combo,
rushing and
too.
receiving yards.
I'm not going to lie. This one is really intriguing to me. I wish you the best of luck. Bottom line, though, is if you plan on watching a game, I'm telling you this, if you put in a lineup, even if it's 5 to win 15, you're going to be locked into that lineup. PrizePicks is a lot of fun. Download the app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks. Run your game. Let's go to my man, Daniel Topchi. And Daniel Topchi is going, Ben Johnson, 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 Ben Johnson. I feel you, Topchi. Rustin, Chugs, you're a real one. Thanks for holding it down.
This is actually from our last show. I don't know why it just popped up.
Oh, really? You know what? Hey, Rustin, shout out to you. James Guevara.
Hey, shout out to me.
Hope the Lions lose so we can seal the BJ deal.
Spam Chugs.
See, here's the only thing. Like, I hear what you're saying, and I know that technically if the Lions lose, we can kind of get that jump start going a little bit quicker. And, yeah, hypothetically speaking, if Ben Johnson is the Raiders head coach and you can get started in the middle of, let's say, January, compared to having to wait until the middle of February, you can kind of already get a little bit of a jump start on the offseason. And for a team like the Raiders, you know, a team where the Chargers and the Broncos, they've already lost, but they're probably going to keep all their coaches. They're probably going to go in that direction. I hear what you're saying, but I'm not going to lie to y'all. There is no team that I would rather have win a Super Bowl than the Detroit Lions. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want the Detroit Lions to win a Super Bowl because I feel like if they do that, then there's another situation where Johnson is 100% like, you know what? I'm getting the heck out of here.
I actually think the opposite.
You think if they win, he stays?
No, I think it's better for the Raiders if Ben Johnson doesn't make it to the Super Bowl because he's still hungry. He still wants that Super Bowl title. If he, goes to the Super Bowl with the Lions, then he's having to, you made it with the Lions. How come you can't make it with your next team? You want him to still be hungry. You still want him to have that hunger.
So you want Ben Johnson to lose as soon as possible?
No. I mean, I didn't say that.
Maybe, that would be the hungriest.
That would be hungry.
That's, you know what? I'm in. I'm all in now. No, I want the Lions to win. I want Ben Johnson to look good. I'm excited to see what he looks like up against the Commanders this Saturday. Rich Wolf, BJ's and Vegas shirts, if hired, please. I will do everything in my power to figure out a way where we can do BJ's and Vegas shirt. I have an idea, in fact. Azul, Chugs the GOAT. Yes, Chugs is back. We got 935 people.
That's his old super chat.
Here in the building. Huge shout out.
He said, I want a good BJ, not a bad BJ.
And luckily, Ben Johnson is going to be a good one. Like, I know, and there's been a lot of people that have been like, oh, well, and we got to stop bringing up pasts, right? Just because the Raiders hired a old offensive coordinator in Josh McDaniels and he was a disaster as a head coach, that doesn't mean that Ben Johnson is going to be a disaster. And I hear a lot of those people out there. But, like, can we start having a glass half full mentality instead of a glass empty mentality? Because it's not even, for a lot of Raider fans out there, it's literally not even glass half full. It's literally not even glass half empty. It is literally glass is totally empty. And if the Raiders go out and get Ben Johnson, I don't think people realize how much of a slam dunk hire that is. And Ben Johnson's got the mindset. And when you see how good he is at being able to call plays, like, McDaniels was good with Tom Brady. McDaniels helped Mac Jones look okay. But there's never been a point where I've been like, Josh McDaniels could get it done. Ben Johnson, to me, is the real deal. What up, Alan Cruz? Turning 25 today. Can I get a Raiders? Alan Cruz, happy birthday to you. One of our OG watchers here on the show. Alan's been here so long that I can remember. Do you remember Alan Cruz's old picture?
Yeah, with Jimmy Garoppolo.
See, then I feel like then there's even another one on top of that.
He used to go. He used to go. Let's say before there was BJ, there was Jenny.
Yep.
Jenny from the block.
Jenny from the block. But it's cool because when you guys are always hanging out with us, it kind of is cool to see you guys grow as well with us, if that makes any sense. So 25 years old, HBD's down below, and I'm telling you this, I think every Raider fan, when they close their eyes and they blow really hard on that cake, they're all hoping for a BJ. If the Raiders do fail, though, to get Ben Johnson, I mean, I'm telling you this, I am also that fan that is scared to get my hopes up because for a long time, I didn't think that there was any chance in hell that the Raiders would have to get Ben Johnson. I mean, nobody thought that he would want to go here. But because of Tom Brady, Johnson took the interview, and there are a lot of things kind of trending in that direction where I'm going, I think Ben Johnson's going to be the next head coach of this team. So my question is this. And it's happened before, crazy things have happened, new NFL things happen all the time. If Johnson is not the Raiders head coach, who do you think it's going to end up being? Is it going to be somebody like a Pete Carroll? Maybe it's somebody like a Liam Cohen. Is it going to be somebody like a Brian Flores? Maybe it's a, I don't know, Spagnuolo, Vance Joseph.
Bobby
Who
Slowick.
do you think it could potentially be? Seth says Brian Flores, Pete Carroll from Chris. I see another Pete Carroll coming in from Bob. What up, Bob? Good to see you, man. Unknown Raider guy goes, I'm just Team Ben Johnson. And I'm with you. I am all in on Ben Johnson. And this feels like a shitty question when people ask me, like, Mitch, who do you want to be the GM? The answer, whoever Ben Johnson wants. If Ben Johnson said, I want John Gruden to be the GM, this coming from me, I'd be like, all right, let's go bring in John Gruden. If Ben Johnson goes, I want Josh McDaniels to be my GM, don't get me wrong, I might be like, are you sure? But I'd be like, all right, F it, like, let's ride with it. I am all in on BJ. In fact, I'm trying to get something going. I tweeted it out. I'm all in. Al in on BJ. AL-IN. Let's put all those chips in the center just like Al Davis would do. Let's go get our guy, Ben Johnson. What up, Delroy Riders? Ben Johnson would be hungriest if he loses the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So you're saying he gets to the Super Bowl and then loses it. To me,
To the Texans.
I would, for your sake, sure. There's not a world of possibilities where I think Houston is going to survive in that Final Four of the AFC. Like, they might be able to run into one more great win. They might. But to be able to take down the Chiefs and then either the Bills or the Ravens and then whoever wins the NFC, I mean, they'd have to they would have to go on a run like the New York Giants did, where they didn't play really good football, and then right when it started to matter the most, though the Giants were playing good football there.
If we play these guys 10 times, they might win 9. But not tonight.
You ever see I always try to think of the speech from the Little Giants about Kevin going down Cherry Hill, and you might not even know what I'm talking about, but he's like, you only got to win one time. What up, Patriots Raider? Get McDaniels before New England does. BJ and McDaniels as OC will feed families. You know what? You're probably not wrong that it's going to feed families. My question is, though, what are you feeding those families, right? Like, you can put food on somebody's plate that might feed a family, but McDaniels coming to the Raiders is you living on a diet strictly on, like, McDonald's French fries. Yeah, you're putting food on a plate that'll feed some families. That's not a very healthy meal, I'll tell you that. What up, Rebel? We wanted Sam Darnold, Pepperidge Farm, remember. I mean, we talked about the opportunity of Sam Darnold potentially being a QB, and I don't think that I was ever somebody that said I wanted Sam Darnold. We would talk about, and I think everybody needs to talk about the possibility of Darnold being an option for the Raiders. And the reason why that I say that is because look at what John Spytek, it's going to be a name that you guys are going to hear a lot recently, Spytek did going out and he found Tom Brady. We'll talk about that in a little bit more in terms of bringing Brady to Tampa Bay. But then also look at what Spytek was able to do with Baker Mayfield. And, you know, and it's not just Spytek. It's everybody in that Tampa Bay Buccaneers organization. But I could also see Spytek being like, you know what, we were able to make something special in Tampa Bay because we did these things. I almost wonder if they could look at Sam Darnold. But the moment Darnold asks for anything over $30 million a year, you take that phone call and you hang it up. And I know the year that he had. I know how good Darnold was. But then also he kind of caved in those final 2 games. And, you know, Darnold could start turning into one of those quarterbacks. You're like, hey, getting it done in the regular season's great and all. But if you want to make the big-time bucks being a quarterback, you got to be able to go out there and win a big-time game. And you got to be able to show that we have a lot of confidence in you. Because, you know, Sam Darnold, right now when I listen to some of the people talk, some of our Vikings guys, it kind of reminds me of the conversation around a lot of the conversations I have with Cowboys fans and Dak Prescott of, oh, he'll help you in the regular season, but when it comes playoff time, that's not a guy that you want. And Sam Darnold, and I know it's only 2 games, and it's only a 2-game sample size, but to me, I think that they're going to stick with J.J. McCarthy now. We'll see what ends up happening. What up, BR Jaden? Even with Ben, how long is this rebuild? I don't know what that answer is, right? Like, it can happen in 1 year. And if you don't think that it can happen in 1 year, then I think you need to wake up a little bit. I'm not talking to you indirectly. I'm talking to anybody out there that's like, there's no way it can be done in 1 year. Go look at the roster for the Washington Commanders at the end of last season. And then watch what they did, because they did everything right. They went out, they got a good head coach. They went out and got a GM that thinks the same way the head coach does. They go out and they get an OC. They find a quarterback that they can pair perfectly with that OC. They go out and they get a good DC, right? Like, they did everything right, and they were able to flip that team around pretty quickly. It can happen quick. Do the Raiders have a lot of missing pieces? Yes. But I do think they have 10 draft picks as it stands now. You could see them end up getting potentially 11, 12 picks, depending on some comp picks that, depending on certain websites are talking about. But you got $108 million in salary cap. You got a lot of draft picks. I know there's a lot of pieces that you need to be able to resign, but this team can get it done. Anybody can get it done. You just have to have the right spots. What up, Crosbull? What's up, y'all? Feeling like shit today with this fever, but still can't miss today's show. Let's go, BJ, and let's go, Raiders. Well, first off, dude, I hope that you feel better. I know what it's like, and everybody knows what it's like when you're feeling sick. I turn into like the biggest baby ever because I don't really get sick often, but when I do, it really knocks me down for the count. I also know when I kind of get sick, I like to be able to just put my feet up, watch something that sometimes makes me think or sometimes can be silly, and that's one of the best parts here about the Raiders Report. Crosbula, feel better, my guy. Now, I did just see a few more supers coming in, and again, I want to be able to get to all the super chats here bright and early. Hashtag Raiders or super chat. Get those questions on the show, and then to the 1,300 people that are watching this live stream right now, we will get into some news around Ben Johnson. We're going to talk about some head coach, GM staffing predictions, and then I gave a bold prediction on John Spytek. I think he's going to be a GM for us. Let's take a sec to celebrate. F them Donkeys. F them Chargers too, man. One of the things that I was saying on this show for a long time of, I think the Broncos and Chargers are winning games against a lot of bad teams. You look at both of those teams' records against teams with winning records, and then you look at their records against teams with losing records. And, there's a kind of a duh in there, Mitch, right? Obviously, they're going to play better against worse teams. They're going to play, but when both teams at all the time, essentially for the whole year, were kind of playing down to that competition, it speaks volumes. But I think it also showed a lot of a guy like Bo Nix, a lot of wrinkles in it even for a dude like Justin Herbert. And to have those games go the way they did, there's going to be some question marks. And not that anything's going to happen. Both those QBs are going to be those guys. But, oh, dude, we celebrated a lot this weekend. What up, Raider fan 209? If we get Ben Johnson, do you think we would look at a quarterback like Jackson Dart in the draft? I do not. They might draft Dart if he slides down the board. However, though, Ben Johnson would also have to take another quarterback. Like, the only options aren't going to be Jackson Dart and Aiden O'Connell. Like, those aren't going to be your only options. So that means then you also have to go get somebody else. What do you say? No, not Quinn Ewers. I think Jackson Dart, Quinn Ewers. I know Dart had a good college that final game, but I am very still undecided on what I think about Jackson Dart. Some tapes really good, some tapes really bad. The inconsistencies are honestly kind of reminds me of a guy like Sam Darnold. Of one game could get him drafted higher. Let's go to Rich Wolf. Any word hiring an assistant GM from the Rams? They've been raw. Well, what'd you say, Monday Night Raw? That's hilarious. I don't have any indication on that. There is one candidate from the Rams that I'm going to talk about here a little bit today that I think could be a good pairing with Ben Johnson. I'll discuss who that is. But right now, I know that Champ Kelly is operating as the Raiders' assistant general manager. He made a move actually yesterday. He signed a guy to a reserve future contract, and I can't think of the dude's name. He's a linebacker, but he was somebody that we actually did a video on probably about 2 months ago. What up, you? What's up, bro? Thank you so much, man, for supporting the show. Nathan Wolf, besides Gabriel after the second round, who matches well with Ben Johnson for quarterback. I mean, I'll tell you this right now. I know what I was told a few weeks ago was around Dillon Gabriel. I'll tell you this. I have not heard Dillon Gabriel's name in a very long time. That's all I'm going to say. I know what I was told a few weeks ago when I was out there in Vegas, but so much has changed. And I don't, like, when I look at the way Gabriel plays, I actually don't think that that's a quarterback that Ben Johnson is going to want. Like, he's way too small for Johnson's. Again, like, when you hear some of the things that he talks about, and I think for a lot of Raider fans out there, you should follow Lions beat reporters right now. That's what I've been doing. I've been talking to a lot of our Lions guys here at Chat Sports because obviously they're very well connected. But Dillon Gabriel, to me, doesn't sound like a quarterback that Johnson would be interested in. What up, Javi? Can BJ bring Hendon Hooker? No, I mean, he could, sure, but it's not something that I would do. Would you give up a third-round pick for Hendon Hooker? Because if I'm Detroit, that's what I'm asking for at the bare minimum. And that just seems like a little bit of rich for my blood. I know Hooker has worked with him for a while, but Detroit also wants to be able to keep a good backup quarterback. And yes, Hendon Hooker can be a name, but I think it's got to be a name where it's like, I missed out on plan A, I missed out on plan B, might have missed out on plan C. Let's roll with Hendon Hooker as plan D. Micro Mike getting some love down in the comments. That's what's up. No, Mike's one of the best guys in the biz. Mike's been doing this for a long time. He works here at Chat Sports and does a lot of awesome stuff around our Lions team. You Chooch, assuming we get Ben Johnson and we can't sign a quarterback or draft a quarterback this offseason, could O'Connell and BJ keep us above water until we do find one? I mean, I've said this before where Aiden O'Connell to me is like a poor man's Jared Goff in a sense. Like, it's an offense that I do think Johnson has experience in. And sure, could you get by with Aiden? I mean, I would say Aiden O'Connell and Ben Johnson on this team, you're hoping for 8 wins. But I really do not think that Johnson is going to take a job where they're like, hey, you might have to be stuck with Aiden O'Connell. Like, that to me is not going to be in the realm of possibilities, because I think it's also one of the reasons why they decided to move on from Tom Telesco, because Telesco was unwilling to do the big deal to go get a quarterback. He was a little bit too conservative. So I think with the Raiders doing their whole thing that they're doing here, and when you listen to a lot of the philosophies that Jed Hughes talks about, if you don't know who Jed Hughes is, look it up on social media. You can look it up on Google or on YouTube. You'll see my video. But when you listen to the philosophies of a guy like Jed Hughes, doesn't sound like Aiden O'Connell is the quarterback. Not because of Aiden, but because they're trying to build something. And when you're trying to build something, they are believers that you got to bring in like first-time things in order to do that. What up, Raider fan 209? I'm not sure we even look at a quarterback in the first round. I mean, that's total cap. Like, I would say right now the most likely starting quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders is Shedeur Sanders. Like, And quite frankly, I don't know if it's all that close. I only say that it's not. I only say that because there's no other name that makes sense like the way Shedeur makes sense. And if you don't like Shedeur Sanders, I'm not sitting up here saying that I do. I think a lot of people that watch the show, I like Cam Ward more than I like Shedeur. But Shedeur has worked with Tom Brady for as long as he has. And I know that there's some rumors, there's some speculation around Deion right now going to the Cowboys. But Deion Sanders on Saturday said that he's very interested in the Raiders job. I understand that the Raiders turned it down. They said that they're not interested in Deion. But Deion said the only way that he's going to return to the NFL is if he can coach his kids. Deion saying that he's interested in the Raiders job tells me that Deion wants Shedeur Sanders to go to the Raiders. And we got a really good connection down here in Dallas that tells our Chat Sports team that Deion right now is really only trying to get a bigger contract with Colorado, which is why he's talking to the Dallas Cowboys. So, like, there's a lot of speculation, a lot of rumors out there. I totally get it. But Raider Muerte, oh, dude, you're not the first person that has brought this up to me. I mean, a few years ago, we were trying to do Hooker jerseys in Las Vegas. A BJ and a Hooker in Vegas doesn't sound too bad. It sounds like a lot of just win babies as far as I'm concerned. Coming up here on today's show, we're going to talk about Ben Johnson and why I think if you were looking at a loading bar, I think that loading bar is slowly starting to get to the point where we're going to be like, Ben Johnson is the Raiders' next head coach. Though I do see a few people that got in the duck race, and I know we don't usually do duck races on Tuesday, but we have over 1,500 people here watching right now, so I said, you know what, F it, let's do it. Chugs' idea, not mine. We got Chris. What up, Chris? Chris Cog? You are in the duck race. I got you, man. Sean Irish, always down to duck around. Julio Zapata, you in. And then I also see Dungeon. And Dungeon ended up putting 2 in. So right now, as it stands, $10 Venmo for a chance to win $25 here on the Raiders Report. All right, Chugs. Are you ready to get into the first segment here on the show? And I just saw, whoa, said Ben Johnson, please just win, baby. I think everybody, I'll tell you this right now. I don't know the last time that I did a show or the last time that I talked about the Raiders where it just felt like everybody was in agreement on something, right? Like, usually when I ask a question, there's some yeses here, there's some nos there. Why for yes and for no? Do you want Ben Johnson to be the Raiders' next head coach? A lot of the answers that you're going to see are going to be yeses because Johnson is the top candidate. He's been the top candidate for 2 years, and he's the type of dude that can get this on the right track. He's the type of dude with Tom Brady are going to get the Raiders back to commitment to excellence. And I've never been more confident about anything that I've talked about on this show. Maybe saying that Josh McDaniels is going to be a fail. That I'm up there. As confident as I was that Josh McDaniels was a failure is almost how confident I am that Ben Johnson would succeed with the Las Vegas Raiders and Tom Brady. That's all I'm saying. All right, y'all. If you do send in a super chat, we'll get to it after the first segment. So the Thad Harder, hopefully that's how you pronounce that name. Thad, we'll get to your super chat after this first segment coming up here on the show. So, all right, you ready, Chugs? You guys ready? Coming up, let's talk about Ben Johnson and why I think he's loading up, giggity, to come to Las Vegas. If you want the Las Vegas Raiders to hire Ben Johnson, smash that subscribe button. We here at the Raiders Report are all in for BJ. I want BJs in Las Vegas to be trending, and I want people to know where it's coming from because I really, really believe that when you look at a lot of the smoke around Johnson right now, I think if you keep following that smoke, that fire is going to end up being for the Las Vegas Raiders. And I'm telling you this. Ben Johnson and LV, it's gaining a lot of traction. So the reason why I wanted to talk about this program today is because if you haven't been following some of the things that have been going on around the Las Vegas Raiders, I think 5 big things have happened in the last 36 hours, which is getting me to go like, I really think Ben Johnson is going to be coming to the Las Vegas Raiders. And if you're like, hell yeah, Mitch, I'm all about it, then you're really going to enjoy today's show because I'm going to be breaking down why that if you follow the smoke, if you follow the tea leaves, it's looking like Ben Johnson's coming to Las Vegas. So here we go. First one is this. Johnson has no more interviews scheduled. Obviously, a lot of NFL teams out there are looking for the idea of bringing in Johnson to be their next head coach. However, though, Johnson has already told other NFL teams out there, like, I ain't taking any more interviews. According to Jonathan Jones of CBS, who's been very spot on with a lot of the reporting around Ben Johnson, around the Las Vegas Raiders, as I reported last night on the NFL Today postgame show, Ben Johnson took all of his interviews over the weekend and then shut it down as the Lions prepare for their divisional round games. I would not expect anything for him to change as he's solely focused on the postseason. So the fact that he's not taking any more interviews, sorry, Dallas Cowboys. Sorry, a lot of other teams that maybe were potentially interested in him, but the Raiders interviewed him on Friday. And I think what Johnson is doing here is smart. He's basically telling people like, hey, I want to focus on the playoffs. I want to focus on my own team. That's what a good OC, that's what a good head coach would end up doing. Let's go to another reason why I think Ben Johnson is coming to Las Vegas. Let's talk about the Pete Carroll interview, because I do think that the Pete Carroll interview is very intriguing to me for people that want Ben Johnson. And I know some of y'all are going, well, how does that make any sense? I know the Raiders interviewed Pete Carroll on Monday, January 13th, and actually, according to reports, Carroll spent most of the day with the Raiders. But one of my sources told me late last night that this could be a plan B type of move if you don't get Ben Johnson. Why I find that interesting is because I'm the type of person where I go, okay, somebody's telling me this information. Why is somebody telling me this information? Let me go out and try to figure out why this information is being conveyed to me. So I know that Pete Carroll has connections with Jed Hughes, and I am a believer in this, that if the Raiders do not get Pete Carroll, or if the Raiders do not get Ben Johnson, that Pete Carroll is going to be an option for the Las Vegas Raiders. So when I heard this and when I was told this, I was like, okay, there's got to be something else going on behind the scenes of it's starting to lead this way a little bit more. And I think when you look at a lot of the things that are going down, there's a lot of things that are leading. There's a lot of speculation that continues to happen. And I think because Pete Carroll's interview, not that it went bad, but when you hear that Pete Carroll was somebody who was reported as potentially being the favorite, and now it's starting, the stars are aligning that it's Pete Carroll, and all these reporters are looking at Ben Johnson, I think Ben Johnson in Las Vegas might legitimately happen. So if you want the Raiders to hire Ben Johnson, I want you to click the like button on this video right now, because I'm telling you, I was excited. I went live for 26 hours when the Raiders fired Josh McDaniels. If the Raiders end up hiring Ben Johnson, and we're not going to go live for that long, but we're going to celebrate, so make sure you guys bring those drinking pants. Let's go, though, to the Pete Carroll interview, and again, this is important because then we got to talk about the Vincent Bonsignore tweet. And I always say on the show, Vinny's not somebody that's going to throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. Vinny only really reports what he is really, truly hearing. And coming up, things are about to get spicy, because why am I talking about the Pete Carroll interview? I'm talking about the Pete Carroll interview because it aligns with what Vincent Bonsignore is tweeting out. So if you like some spice, it's about to get spicy. Today's show is sponsored by GameTime. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed, and GameTime is all about bringing people together in the year 2025 and creating those lasting memories, which is why I love GameTime. And GameTime's got a new feature called the GameTime Picks that makes getting tickets for live events even easier. GameTime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. What I love about using the GameTime app is that you get the lowest price guarantee on any ticket to any event. All in pricing, so you don't get slapped with crazy fees at checkout, and flash deals so you can get even cheaper tickets the closer you wait to game time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app. Create an account. Use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Now, for me personally, like I live in Dallas, right? So if I'm going to go to an event, there's also one of the things that I like to do because I usually have off on some weekends. Obviously, with the playoff schedule now, it's a little bit different. But one of the tabs that they have on Game Time is you can see what's going on during the weekend in your city and a city that you're going to go visit. There's a reason why we talk about Game Time so much. I use it, Chugs uses it, and everybody that I talk to that uses it loves it as well. Promo Chat Sports, $20 off. Download Game Time today. All right, let's talk about why this is getting spicy. A lot of things lining up and pointing to Ben Johnson to the Raiders. Nothing surprised me in this league, though some really good coaches have a chance to change things when they interview. But I will say this tweet was not sent out on January 7th. It was sent out yesterday, which is an important thing to indicate. So because Vinny put that out right after Pete Carroll ended up interviewing, that is extremely important because Vinny's been somebody that has been saying Pete Carroll, he thinks Pete Carroll's the front runner. And you know, I got to give Vinny credit because he only reports a lot of the things that he's told. So if Vinny's putting this out into the world of, hey, I'm hearing this, and then all of a sudden, Pete Carroll interview ends, and now Vinny is saying this, that is important. And that goes back to me going, okay, why am I getting information that's telling me that Pete Carroll sounds like he has a plan B? That light bulb goes off in my head and I go, well, I got to do some digging. I got to do some looking around. And once you know it, find this tweet here by Vincent Bonsignore, and then those two things start to align. Because the fact that Vinny's been that guy that's been saying Carroll's the front runner, and now you switch to Ben Johnson and quote from Bonsignore, if Ben doesn't want it, I believe Pete gets it. The switch on the same day is one of those things of it's smoke, and I think it could be leading here to a little bit of fire. And, you know, I was somebody that flat out said there's no way Ben Johnson is going to take this job for the Raiders. We have one thing, and it's something nobody else has, and it's Tom frickin' Brady. So here's the thing, though. If you know who your top head coach candidates are, wouldn't you then start to get the ball rolling on interviewing your GMs? Like, that's my thought process. A few days ago, live on this show, I go, if I'm the Las Vegas Raiders and I do truly want Ben Johnson, And if I feel like all of the legit candidates that I want to be head coach, if I feel like I'm in a good spot, I'm going to start moving forward. But I'm also going to ask Ben. I'm also going to maybe even ask Pete, or especially Ben, though, who are the guys that you're looking at? Who are some of the people that you're thinking about? So then, you got the interview from Carroll, the Vinny B tweet, and then once you know it, the very next day, the Raiders submit 2 requests to interview 2 different people. The first person, who I talked about this morning, and again, make sure you're subscribed. I'm going to do my best to keep you guys up to date. This video that I put out on Jon-Eric Sullivan went out probably 10 hours ago at this point. But the Raiders requested to interview Sullivan on January 14th, and the fact that he was the first person, it caught my eye a little bit. Very well respected in the college scouting department, roster building. But to me, one of the reasons why I think that Jon-Eric Sullivan got brought up is because of all the other GM searches that brought him up as well. He's a respected name. But this is the name that I want people to remember, John Spytek. If you don't know the name John Spytek, I'm not talking Spider Tech for on your fingers. I'm not talking Spygate, though. Brady might go from Spygate to Spytek. They were requested to interview him the exact same day. And when you look at all the connections around Spytek, in fact, for those of you that are watching this live, I'm going to talk a lot about Spytek today. For those of you that don't watch today's live show, I'm going to put out a video later in the week going, I think this guy right here is going to be the next Raiders GM. Now, I will say this. If you don't end up hiring Spytek, or if you don't end up hiring Sullivan, here are some other potential GM candidates that the Raiders could look at. And these are simply just names that I threw in my top GM candidates video. And if you want to see more on these players, or on these coaches, on these people, here's the video, Raiders GM candidates after firing Tom Telesco. I literally did this video right after they fired him, so there might be some old information in the video, but if you want to know why this person's interesting here and there, I did also say in the video that one of the names that you're going to see Cowden would probably end up going to the New England Patriots because of his relationship with Mike Vrabel, and then that one actually ended up happening. So how about this, y'all? Who do you want the Raiders general manager to be? I know we talk a lot about head coaches, and we're talking a lot about Ben Johnson, and it's for obvious reasons, right? Like, I don't get randomly 2,000 people watching a Tuesday show unless there's some information that a lot of people want to know. And a lot of people want to know stuff about Ben Johnson. But then also, I think we also got to be able to answer that GM question. So my answer is going to be coming up after this YouTube ad break, but I want y'all to let me know who you want that Raiders GM to be. Maybe this is a lame answer, but it's 100% the truth. Whoever Ben Johnson wants is my answer. If Ben Johnson looked me dead in the eyes and goes, Mitch, I want John Gruden to be the GM, I'd go, all right, man, let's do it. If he looked at me and he goes, I want Josh McDaniels to be the GM, I'd go, son of a gun, Morty, I'm in. But then also, like, I don't care if it's Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, I don't care who it is. If Ben Johnson wants that guy to be the GM, we got to bring in that got to be the GM, because I'm all in on making Ben Johnson happy. And then here's my last reason of why I think the wheels are already turning and Ben Johnson coming to Las Vegas. The Silver and Black are not interested in Deion Sanders. And I'm not saying that Deion, like himself, is what you need to look at. I think what you need to look at closer is the fact of how quick the Raiders said no. And I say that because remember when the Patriots fired Gerard Mayo? I mean, it was really like Patriots lost the game, Gerard Mayo out the door, all indications are Mike Vrabel. Where there was a lot of reports that Mike Vrabel was the front runner, and then as soon as New England ended up firing their guy, I even stepped up here on this show and I go, I don't think that the Raiders are going to be able to get Vrabel anymore because it sounds like he's going there. But when you know that you had a great interview, the Raiders had a great interview with Ben Johnson on Friday. You don't think Deion Sanders has connections everywhere? I bet you somebody really close to Deion said, hey, the Raiders are probably all in on Ben Johnson. Deion goes, crap, I want to be able to coach Shedeur. I want Shedeur to go to the Raiders. Let me pick up the phone. Let me call Mark Davis. But you can say what you want about Mark in the past, and you can say what you want about the Raiders and their new head coach hiring system they got going on now with Tom Brady and Jed Hughes. But the Raiders, for the first time in a long time, are doing things right. You're telling me that Mark Davis years ago would not have been tempted by Deion Sanders, somebody that would be able to bring him in more money than Ben Johnson, somebody that would be able to bring in more money than anybody that has ever interviewed for the Raiders head coaching job, and in less than 24 hours, they go, we're not interested. You know why you're not interested? Because the apple of your eye is Ben Johnson, and that's why I am telling y'all, the Raiders are all in on Ben Johnson, and do you want the little cherry on top here? Something that we all like, a nice little cherry on top of a Sunday. The fact that the NFL, and if you haven't seen the video that I did bright and early this morning, it's around Roger Goodell kind of helping Tom Brady be able to find his quarterback. Brady covers or works for Fox, for those of you that do not know. And Tom Brady's going to be covering that Detroit Lions game. The only person that's going to be able to talk to Ben Johnson on the field that can actually hire a head coach is Tom Brady. So when you look at all the things that I talked about today, and then on top of the fact of this right here, Tom Brady giving the Raiders a big advantage. And, he's going to be able to talk to him on the field on Saturday. He's not going to be able to kind of, get into the meetings. I want you to go check out that video. But from Friday to Saturday, 1 week, think about how much different the conversations are. Hell, ESPN dropped an article literally at the time that I'm recording this video, and their prediction to be the next Las Vegas Raiders head coach is Ben Johnson. When you have this much smoke around a topic, there's a reason, and it's because that loading bar is loading, and I am a believer that Ben Johnson is going to be the next head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, and I hope everybody goes out and they thank Tom Brady. So how confident are you that Ben Johnson is going to be the Raiders' next head coach? Scale it from me, 1 to 10. 1, you're not confident at all. 10, it's a 10. It's a 10. How are we feeling? Where are we at? How confident? I am
6.9.
Oh, see, that's a great answer. I want to say I'm a 7. Right?
You don't want to get your hopes up too much.
Dude, a 7, if you would have asked me this question
2 weeks ago?
Honestly, 2 weeks ago, I would have said 1. I would have said 1, and I don't even think it would have been close. I'm probably around a 7, but that number seems to grow every time.
Mario, no. Watch the video for more context of what Mitch was saying at the end of that. But it's not a job interview. It's that since Brady's working the game, he can talk more to Ben Johnson. So
because Ben Johnson said that he's not taking any more interviews and he's not going to talk, he's just not going to talk to teams that are interested in him. But because Tom Brady works that game on Saturday, he's going to be on the field. And guess who's going to be on the field as well? Ben Johnson. So Tom Brady, he's going to be allowed to go up to Johnson, and he's going to talk to Johnson on the field. And he's going to talk to the players. But Mario, yeah, if you want way more in depth on why Roger Goodell in the NFL, honestly, really helped out the Raiders here. And I know a lot of people are always like, F the NFL, F Goodell. I literally start this show off by going, thank you, Roger Goodell, which blows my mind that I even say it. But Raiders fans should actually really be thanking Roger Goodell in the NFL because they kind of threw us a little bit of a softball. They kind of gave us a little bit of the cherry on top.
Throw me a bone here, Scotty.
You got to go check it out. It's a video that I did this morning. Tom Brady's clearly a big advantage here for the silver and black. What up, Woes? Ben Johnson, please. I want Ben Johnson. Woes wants Ben Johnson coming through the 6 with my... What up, Thad? Was there this much hype for McDaniels when he left New England the first time? Not from me. I'll tell you, and maybe you're a new watcher here. I think anybody that has watched me, and how about this? How many people were around when the Raiders hired Josh McDaniels on this show? Because I would say that I was the number one person in the entire world, not just Raiders content-wise. I was the number one person in the world saying Josh McDaniels is going to be a failure in Las Vegas. Hell, I had a tweet, January 22nd, 2022. Retweet this if you don't want the Raiders to hire McDaniels. And I said that because McDaniels is not a leader of men. McDaniels also was a big old failure as a head coach and was one of those type of dudes that was afraid to admit that he was wrong, failed to be able to make corrections. When you listen to people talk about Ben Johnson, they don't talk about him like that. Like King Schaub was here. Cap says he was here. Bruce was here. And I literally say, if you were here, I hope people back me up because I was totally against Josh McDaniels. Now, again, I never wanted McDaniels, and I couldn't wrap my mind around how anybody possibly could think that McDaniels was going to work. And I know I got a lot of hate for it. In fact, I actually hope that this offseason I stop being the guy, and it's not my fault. I don't want to be the guy where I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, Mitch, you always hate the stuff the Raiders do. I don't like being that guy, but also there's a reason why I'm that guy, because I'm not up here on the show to give you cupcakes, butterflies, and rainbows. I'm up here to give you my honest opinion. I'm going to be right sometimes, and I'm going to be wrong sometimes. But if you're getting mad at me for being somebody that hates a lot of the decisions the Raiders are making, and then you look at how bad this organization has been, why are you getting mad at me? Not necessarily for being right, but kind of for being right. And I'm not saying you, Thad. I'm saying like in general. Like, they hire Ben Johnson, and they could do just about anything, and I'm going to be on board for it because I believe in Ben Johnson. What up, OG? Good to see you, my man. Enough of this Ben Johnson talk. Bring John Gruden back. I'm kidding. But with Wilkins coming back, should we trade for a defensive tackle for help and make our D insane? I mean, if your head coach is BJ, you better have an insane D. I think Christian Wilkins is a monster on the interior, and I would also say that, Tyree Wilson was able to take that step. You got Max Crosby. I would bring back Adam Butler. I even said it last year. Like, Adam Butler is one of the most underappreciated players that this Raiders team has, and he shows you week in and week out that he's not afraid to get in there, do the dirty work, and, he's not afraid to do the difficult stuff. So to me, I would bring back Adam Butler, and then there's some good defensive tackles in this year's class. You might be able to bring in an extra name or two, but at the end of the day, the Raiders, I know a lot of people think that we have just all this money. I saw some tweet yesterday from somebody on Twitter, and I interacted with him, and he was like, kind of talking about his plan, and I, commented on that video, and I go, well, you're going to have to pay Max Crosby, over $30 million a year. And I don't think people realize how much money that we are going to have to allocate this offseason if we want to bring players back, right? Like, if you want to bring back like the Raiders, if you wanted to bring back Malcolm Kuntz, Robert Spillane, Trevon Merrick, and then maybe Nate Hobbs, maybe Divine Diablo, maybe Malcolm Kuntz, Adam Butler, I mean, you're going to spend a lot of your salary cap in order to do that. Where I would say if the Raiders are going into free agency, I would say out of the $108 million, I would say you really are actually only going to have a lot closer to like $70 million, which is still a lot of money. But after contract restructures, after a lot, I wouldn't look at it as 108. I would look at that number as a lot closer to 65, 70. What up, on hell? Which quarterback would fit Ben Johnson's offense better? That picture is crazy that Chugs just showed me. In all honesty, this is kind of a difficult question because I feel like you're almost limiting Ben Johnson, where I legitimately think Ben Johnson is creative enough and it is good enough to go, whatever quarterback you give me, I'm going to be able to build an offense around that guy. And I say that because when you look at what Ben Johnson did with Jared Goff, he did exactly what Goff is good at. And Goff is really good at play action. And they went out, they go get two really good running backs. They build an awesome offensive line, and they do everything that, he's good at, that Jared Goff is good at. If I were to tell you which quarterback do I think kind of is the most similar to Jared Goff that the Raiders won, his name is Shedeur Sanders. Like, the offense Shedeur would run in the NFL, I think, is a very similar offense to what Ben Johnson would try to replicate if Shedeur was with the Raiders, and because Shedeur's connections with Tom Brady, I think that Ben Johnson's number one target, if he's the Raiders head coach, is Shedeur Sanders. I really do. Though I'll also say that could also be Shedeur Sanders sits for 1 year, and they might let Aiden O'Connell try to rock out for 1 year. They might. I don't know, though. Let's go, Elias. Been rocking with you so long, I practically feel like I know Ed Dodds personally. Yeah, I did. What's crazy is every time the Raiders have fired and hired somebody, Ed Dodds has always been a name that I've thrown in the GM video. In fact, I'd be curious to see how many people watched my Raiders GM video back when they were looking at Mayock. Because, when they were looking at Mayock, we were talking about Louis Riddick. We were talking about Ed Dodds again. And these are names that just always get thrown in because of their connection with the Raiders and their connection with Mark Davis. Let's go to the next one. Coming on here on the Raiders Report. Reminder, we got over 1,700 people watching, 500 likes. Shout out to all of y'all. If you want to get your questions, comments on the show, it's hashtag Raiders, or you can super chat. Racing Raider, if BJ is hired, do you think Devontae will want to come back? No disrespect to Davante Adams, but I don't want Davante on this team. Like, would he want to come back? Maybe. And I might not blame Davante for wanting to come back, because I think if Davante saw that Ben Johnson's getting hired, he's probably going to go, shit, I might have really screwed the pooch on that one. But at the same time, I'm kind of happy now that everything happened around Davante the way that it did, because we would be sitting here now this offseason going, do I want to pay Davante Adams $40 million a year? Because he was scheduled to make $40.1 in 2025 and $40.1 in 2026. That's way too much money for a wide receiver that, quite frankly, I don't think Davante is a top 10 wide receiver anymore. So, like, even if he wanted to come back, I mean this, I do not have any interest in Davante Adams. Davante quit. And Davante quit on this team way before a lot of us even knew about it. Davante was okay, and I know AP's not the head coach anymore, but Davante was okay making his head coach look like an ass, where Davante's behind closed doors telling all these people I want to be traded, and then AP's going up there going, no, we got a good relationship. If Davante can lie to that many people and put a smile on his face, respectively, I have lost all respect for Davante Adams, and I have no problem saying that. Let's go to Tony Williams. You're right. Davante Adams is not worse than Deontay Johnson. Getting kicked off 5 NFL teams in 1 year, it's a you problem. But I think also when you look at Davante Adams, he's got to look himself in the mirror and he's got to go, I'm not that guy anymore. So you can't act like that diva.
I would rather sign Davante Adams shit than Deontay Johnson.
I mean, I don't know about that.
Both of them have the same impact on my team.
I agree with that. I think you're going to get – if Davante took a dump right now in a porta potty, you would get more use out of that dump than Deontay Johnson.
Facts.
Because Deontay Johnson, if he keeps doing what he's doing, he's going to be cleaning the shit out of that porta potty. Ben Johnson of the Raiders isn't real. He won't want it. He won't want what? I mean, he already took the interview, and Ben Johnson was already telling. I mean, it's already been very well reported that Ben Johnson is the front runner for the Raiders job, and I get it. My only question to you, Tony, is where do you think he would want to go? That would be my question. Because when you look at everything that Ben Johnson has literally said he wants, the only destination is the Las Vegas Raiders. Let's go to Christopher. Could we go after Javon Hargrave? I mean, Javon Hargrave's a dog in the trenches, right? Like, he's a hell of a defensive tackle. I don't know exactly what it would take to go out and get him. I know he was somebody that I talked about a few years ago before he signed a deal, but, like, the Raiders already went out and they got Wilkins. To me, if this team is going to spend big in the trenches, I don't know if it's going to be going out and spending big on another defensive tackle. I think that they would try to, bring back like an Adam Butler and try to bring back a Malcolm Kuntz, because that would probably be the same money as a dude like Javon Hargrave. Let's go to Raider fan 209. What up, bro? What are the chances Ben Johnson trade Max for the first pick and draft Sanders? Here's one thing that Raider fans probably don't realize. Max Crosby, you have to give up way more for the number 1 pick, right? Like, if you picked up the phone and said, hey, Tennessee Titans, I'll give you Max Crosby for the first-round pick, they tell you to go F yourself. They laugh in your face. They go, oh, you're going to give me Max Crosby? Awesome. I still want a first-round pick next season. I probably still want a second-round pick this season. If I'm the Titans, I go, I want your first-round pick in 2026, Max Crosby, and at minimum, another second or third-round pick in this year's class. Like, I know what Max is, and I know Max is an unbelievable player, but if you're getting dealt on draft day, you're not always going to get the big-time price tag that you think that you're going to get. So could Ben trade him? He might. Like, Max wants a new deal. People got to realize that. Max has got $0 million guaranteed on his contract, and he literally said on his podcast, he wants a new deal. He wants a brand new contract, and if you don't give him those things, I think it could get pretty interesting for the Raiders. I made a video a few weeks ago saying that this offseason, there has never been a more real possibility of 98 being traded than this offseason. And Ben Johnson, he's going to evaluate. And I'm not going to lie to y'all. If I was somebody in Ben Johnson's shoes and I were to look at this Raiders roster and I go, do I want to invest that much money into a defensive end, or do I want to invest all that other money in a lot of other areas? The thing that helps Max is he's the face of the franchise, and he's got a great relationship with Mark Davis, which will help him out a lot. Let's go to Jay Crew. What does the quarterback draft situation look like with the current Deion to Dallas rumors. I'll tell you this, we were talking about it today. If Deion Sanders is the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, Shedeur Sanders will be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. There's not a conversation, and I don't even think Dallas needs to trade up to go get him. I think that they will be an Eli Manning situation. There will be something about getting Shedeur to Dallas, right? I bet you a lot of NFL teams take him off the board. Take him right off their board. Now, I still would wonder if the Raiders were to draft him because Deion does like the idea of Shedeur playing with the Raiders. But if Deion's coaching in Dallas, Shedeur's probably going to want to go to Dallas. And you're going to run into a whole other situation. I'm telling you this right now. Deion to Dallas is bad news for the Raiders because it adds an extra wrinkle into a situation that you have no control over. And I think it also adds a wrinkle into the quarterback that Tom Brady and the Raiders are looking at. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right. There's only going to be time that's going to tell. But one of our sources here at Chat Sports said that Deion's doing this with Jerry just so he gets a new contract from Colorado. Let's go to John Scheffler. What up, man? For one thing, might be falling our way. It's something I'm not used to. But, man, it would be good for things to fall our way. And I agree with you. When you look at how many things are falling the Raiders' way, not that I'm surprised because I know the way that the NFL works too, where the NFL knows, and I mean knows this for a fact, if they make Tom Brady happy and the more Tom Brady is involved in the NFL, the more money the NFL makes. So I think the Raiders being good and the Raiders being good in that division with Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and then if you can get a good Raiders team led by Tom Brady going up against Patrick Mahomes, and you can maybe get in that debate a little bit more, the NFL always figures out ways to help its own. And Tom Brady and Roger Goodell are like this. So am I surprised when you see something little, and it's little, that Tom Brady gets to cover that game on Saturday, the Lions game? I'm not all that surprised. What up, Noah? J.J. McCarthy no longer available after the loss.
No.
I think now if you want McCarthy, the asking price just went up a lot. I wasn't somebody that really liked McCarthy coming out of college all that much. But now with Sam Darnold playing bad those last two games, when I talked to our Vikings host here, Seeps, he's all in on them sticking with JJ, which doesn't surprise me. Akash, if the Ben plan fails, go all in for Kyle Shanahan. Depends what they want in Shanahan. I mean, do the 49ers want to move on from him? Are you okay giving up 2 first-round picks for Shanahan? Because if I'm the 49ers, that's what I would ask for. If I saw a head coach like John Gruden get traded for multiple first-round picks, why am I not going to ask for multiple first-round picks from my guy in Shanahan? And for that reason, I'm not going to do it. Even if they ask for a second-round pick. I would give up a second-round pick for Shanahan, but that's because I believe in Shanahan. But I don't think it's going to be as easy as what some people are speculating out there. Tony, he's the front runner for every team. Raiders stink. Why would Ben Johnson come here when he has been picky? Makes no sense.
Now I get it. Tony's a Detroit Lions fan, and he doesn't want Ben Johnson to leave.
It's
no way Tony's a Raiders fan.
Tony has just lived under a rock for the last week, which is fine, Tony, and I don't mind. And I said all these things too, Tony. I did. But the difference maker is Tom Brady. The difference maker is Ben Johnson wants to be able to call all the shots, and Ben Johnson wants to be able to build his entire team, right? The Raiders, if Ben Johnson gets hired, new GM, new OC, new DC, also, he's literally able to build his whole own franchise with Tom Brady. That's the selling point.
If you're trying to become a head coach,
Agent Red, clean slate.
If you're trying to become a head coach, how many head coaching opportunities do you get to get a complete team? That's the whole point. The team's not good, so they fired their head coach.
Yep. Yeah, Tony, he's a Bears fan. And I think, honestly, Tony, what hurts you, in all honesty, is that you have Caleb. And I know Ben Johnson wants a quarterback, but Ben Johnson did not pick Caleb Williams, right? That is old regime. And also, he's not going to get to pick his GM. Ben Johnson wants to be able to pick his QB, and Ben Johnson wants to be able to pick his GM. And Ben Johnson wants to be able to build his entire football team, which is what he gets the opportunity to do. When you play Madden, do you go to a team, and I don't know how Madden works, but would you go to a team, if you're trying to be a coach, I would want to go to a spot where I can do my own thing, not have to listen to other people that are already in place. So I hear you, Tony, but I'm just telling you this, man. I think you got to get used to the idea that Johnson is more likely going to go to the Raiders than Chicago.
Cry emojis in the chat for Tony.
I think Mike McCarthy is going to be the guy in Chicago.
Cry emojis for Tony. I'm sorry, buddy.
Donnie Ventura, does BJ leave the Lions if they win the Super Bowl? Ben Johnson's going to leave this offseason. And the only reason why that I say that is because it's back-to-back candidacies where he's the top head coach candidate out there, and he's going to get money. Like, it was reported last year that he was looking for about $15 million. Johnson's camp came out and said that's false. I'm telling you this right now. I mean, no matter where he's hired next, he's going to get minimum $15 million per year. And, you know, one of the guys that I talked to in Vegas kind of gave me along the lines of it's going to be a fully guaranteed contract like a John Gruden at minimum $15 million per year. I'm not saying 10-year deal. I was told a little bit more in the 5 to 6 year range, but we'll see what ends up happening. But if they win a Super Bowl, yeah, he's gone. I mean, he's gone this year no matter what. He's going to take a job. Raiders, Ben, what up, dude? Anyone that we might franchise tag next offseason? No, there is nobody that the Raiders would ever franchise tag. And I say that because the only person that you might tag, Malcolm Kuntz, but then you're tagging Malcolm Kuntz for $21 million a year. That's not going to happen. When you tag a player, that means when you tag that player, they get the average of the top 5 highest paid players at that position. And we don't have a top 5 player at any position that's going to hit the open market. Let's go to Lance. What up, Lance? More likely the Raiders, that's a hell of a picture. More likely the Raiders trade for Joe Burrow or Jair Alexander, both huge needs for the team. I mean, I hate to break it to you. There's a better chance that the guy in your picture is our next head coach than us trading for Joe Burrow. So I guess the answer is Jair Alexander. Let's go to Zachary. From a Packers fan, Jair Alexander for Crosby.
Next.
You're not even close. Caleb Williams bust, so is Sanders, Ward or nothing. And I don't think it's fair to say that to Caleb, and I don't think it's fair to say that to Sanders. I think Bo Nix is the perfect example of a quarterback that is very limited with some of his abilities. But if you put him in the right system and you put him with the right coach, you know, it can work out, right? Like, look at, I mean, Caleb Williams, another good example, right? Where he struggled this year, and I think it's because they didn't put him with the right guy. They put a lot of talent around. Look at Jaden. You put the right guy in the right system, and damn, man, he looks really flipping good. Jay Crew, Bears can have John Gruden. The Bears can have John Gruden. Believe me, you can take him. Raider fan, what do you think LV can trade up to get Sanders? You probably are going to move on from a dude that's got an expiring contract, and the players that I would say are the most likely of that expiring contract, Max Crosby, 0 guarantees left. Colton Miller, 0 guarantees left. And then also Jacoby Myers, 0 guarantees left. So you would probably use one of those players, but to get from 6 up to 1, I would say right now, just based on what I think it costs, and this is looking at the trade value chart, it's also just going back and looking at past NFL years. I would say right now for the Raiders to go from 6 up to 1 would be you got to give up your first 3 picks this year. So first round, second round, third round pick. You got to give up your first round pick and second round pick next season. And then you also got to throw in a player like Colton Miller. And like that's the starting point. For teams that want quarterbacks and you got to move up, you're going to overpay. So all the Raider fans that celebrated the Jags, all the Raiders fans that celebrated the Saints win, if they do end up trading for a quarterback, I just hope that you're okay the fact that they gave up our future on something we could have had for free, right? Like you could, instead of buying milk for $3, the Raiders decided for 2 weeks that they're not going to give a shit and they're okay paying $20 a gallon for milk for the entire year, maybe 2 years. Hopefully that analogy made sense. $10 to get in for the duck race. We got almost 2,000 people here in the building. The last time that I checked, it was a $10 Venmo. You would go home with $25 here on the program. Now I am happy to tell you that it is a lot more. Anthony Flores, you, sir, are in. Nathan Wolf is in. Raider Sancho, you in. What's up, Darth? In. Elias Amador, you in. Isidro, you in. And then I got Gilbert Moreno, Ron Raspberry. So that means as it stands right now, a $10 Venmo, you could go home with $65 here on the Raiders Report. I'll get more names in here.
That's actually not bad.
Philip Bogert now, so now it's $70. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm impressed by the fact that there's this many OGs that want to get in the duck race on a Tuesday, because anytime we get the club pulling up, it's always on a Tuesday.
We did just get about 3 or 4 more Super Chats.
Yep.
We will get into that, but
I want to do the next segment.
Yeah, we're going to get into the next seggy.
So I want to say Nico, MP, Tony, Carlos. We'll get to those Super Chats after this segment, but the next segment is going to be me around just having a little bit of fun. It's something that I haven't done before to my knowledge, which is kind of surprising how often the Raiders have switched GMs and head coaches, but I wanted to do something a little bit different. I'll explain my reasoning on a lot of the reasons why I'm saying what I'm saying, but hopefully you enjoy this next show.
Bears fans are not happy with you.
I mean, that's fine. I think Bears fans are just frustrated, just like Raiders fans are just frustrated. And I can understand Bears fans wanting Ben Johnson. I mean, they've had to go up against him, right? They've had to see him. I mean, I get it. I think Bears fans got to realize that there's a reason why he's going to choose the Raiders over the Bears, and it's because the Bears don't have Tom Brady. It's not a knock on the Bears. It's just I think it's Tom Brady.
I did hear Lovie Smith is available.
Lovie Smith is available
Lovie
to the
Smith
Chicago
or
people.
the Bears.
Personally, I think if you guys think Mike McCarthy would be a better fit in Chicago than Ben Johnson,
Type me.
Spam me down below.
Yeah.
I guarantee you. I mean, I tweeted that out yesterday, too.
Lovie Smith or Mike McCarthy would move mountains in Chicago.
Lovie Smith, better option than Ben Johnson in Chicago, right? Mm-hmm. If you agree with that statement, spam me down below. I mean, watch how many people are like, yes, no doubt, Mike McCarthy is better than Ben Johnson. I'm telling you right now, it's not a doubt in my mind. Not a doubt in my mind. All right, y'all, coming up here on today's show, let's get in to a little bit of a fun game, a little fun segment that I wanted to be able to cook up here. Hopefully y'all enjoyed today's episode. Where did you get your Raiders hat from, Victor? I get all my Raiders hats from one place and one place only. No, I get most of my hats from Culture Kings, though. I love the hats that they have. Though I will say this, I just put in an order for like 50 new Raiders Report hats, so we'll be able to have them really soon. I know I still owe Rupert Daniel, I still owe you a Raiders hat, and there's somebody else in my sheet that I owe a hat, but we'll be able to give away some Raiders Report hats, so make sure you guys are tuned in, make sure you guys are watching. Yeah, for anybody that doesn't know, I'm kidding on the whole Mike McCarthy thing, but I'm only saying that so that way Mike ends up going to Chicago. Yeah, dude, I can't wait. Though I am nervous about Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll's the one where I'm like, oh, man, I don't know if I want that. Marco, yeah, Culture Kings is awesome. They got a lot of different things there, and they have a lot of good Raiders hats. It's a company that I want to say was made out West Coast like brand, and they got a lot of swaggy stuff. Like I love all the Raider hats that they have. I probably have now close to like 15 different Raiders hats now, but this is one of my favorites. PrizePicks is the sponsor. All right, let me get into my script here. And I am ready to rock, You ready? Jugs is ready to go. Are you guys ready? Hopefully, coming up, let's talk about some interesting head coach and candidate pairings. I don't even know how I'm going to get into this one, but let's do it. Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and I wanted to have a little bit of fun on today's show. So what I decided to do is this. We're going to look at every single Raiders head coach candidate. In terms of the head coach candidates, only the people that are on this show are people that are confirmed. The Raiders have submitted an interview request, which means only 7 coaches at the time that I'm making this video. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through and I'm going to go in the order of when either the coach was interviewed or when that interview was requested to them. And I'm going to go through and I'm going to say who's the best guy for Ben Johnson at GM, who's the OC, who's the DC, and I'm going to put together the perfect duo, the perfect coaching staff based on who the Raiders could potentially hire as their head coach. Now, here's the thing. If you want creative videos around who the Raiders head coach and GM can be, hit that subscribe button. This is a little bit of a different show, and I do these because anybody can talk about news. Anybody can talk about a breaking news story, but when you're able to kind of peel the curtain back, have a little bit of fun, these are the type of shows that I wanted to make this show about. These are the type of shows that I sit at a bar with, that I sit with my buddies and I talk oh, if the Raiders hired Ben Johnson, who would they hire at OC? Who would they hire at DC? Who's the best GM fit with Ben Johnson? Well, luckily for you, that's the first guy that we're going to talk about here on today's show. So let's get into it. Ben Johnson interviewed with the Raiders on January 9th. Thanks to Tom Brady. It's already been documented that the only reason why he took that interview was because of TB12, and now when you look at a lot of the reports, it looks like the front runner to get that Raiders job is, in fact, the Lions OC. And I know the Raiders won't hold back in terms of cost. They're going to pay him whatever they need to be able to do. But the reason why I was excited to do this video is because the amount of times I was asked, Mitch, all right, you want Ben Johnson. Who do you think they end up pairing with Ben Johnson? Here's my prediction. If the Las Vegas Raiders, they go out and they hire Johnson, I think that they're going to end up hiring GM John Spytek. Why do I say that? Right after the Raiders had an interview with Johnson on the 9th, then they also interviewed Pete Carroll, and it sounds like right now Ben Johnson and Pete Carroll are the two front runners for the job. I said on this show, as soon as you got your front runners, start looking for GMs. The following day, the Raiders put in an interview request, and when you see a lot of the reasons of Spytek connections with Tom Brady, it makes a lot of sense. For Tanner Eckstring, the reason why I'm going to throw his name in the mix here, he's the Detroit Lions pass game coordinator. If I'm Ben Johnson, I go, I'm going to be the one calling the shots. I'm going to be the one calling the plays. So why would I not try to bring somebody in who's been with me the past 2 seasons to help me execute my offense? And then this is a name that I was told literally this morning. George Edwards, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers linebacker coach. I was told that Spytek thinks very, very highly of George Edwards, and Tom Brady loved what Edwards was able to do with Tampa Bay, because if you remember, one of the reasons why the Buccaneers were able to beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in that Super Bowl was the amount of pressure, the amount of edge rush help that they were able to get. George Edwards is a name on a video that I'm going to do down the line, but if the Raiders end up hiring Ben Johnson, I think they go John Spytek, Tanner Eckstring, George Edwards. That's going to be your team with Ben Johnson. So how about this? What says you? Who's going to be the best GM to pair with Ben Johnson? I am all in on BJ. BJ's in Las Vegas. But I got to know, who's the best pairing with somebody like Ben? I bet you there's going to be somebody that goes, you know what, Mitch? Let's just put Tom Brady in there. What I decided to do is give you my top 4 candidates to pair with Ben, and Ben is the only guy on today's video that I'm going to give you top 4 candidates because Ben's the guy that I want. So if the Raiders end up going not with John Spytek, I think Ray Agnew is definitely a name that you got to keep in mind. The Detroit Lions assistant general manager, wouldn't be surprised if Ben Johnson brings him in. Lance Newmark is a name you got to consider because Newmark, assistant GM in Washington, it's his first year in Washington, but was with the Lions for many, many years before that. And then Jon-Eric Sullivan, the only reason why I'm throwing him on this list is because he was the very first GM that the Raiders put in a request for. Let's go to the next Raiders head coach candidate, and that is Aaron Glenn, who interviewed with the Raiders on the same day, Friday, January 9th, as Ben Johnson did. I don't want people to say that Aaron Glenn is a Rooney Rule interview, and I think that's fair to Glenn. I think that Glenn is going to get a head job, and I think he's a top 32 coach in the NFL. And Glenn has done a terrific job, I would say, in Detroit, despite all the injuries that organization has had. I will say this, many do consider him the front runner for the Saints job, but that has changed a little bit now that Mike McCarthy has become available. To me, this is the staff that I think Aaron Glenn would go with if he was with the Las Vegas Raiders. I think Glenn brings in Ray Agnew, the Detroit Lions assistant GM. I then say that he's going to bring in Aubrey Pleasant, who is right now the Rams pass game coordinator and DB coach. He actually has some offense and defensive mind in there, but Aubrey Pleasant with the Rams, reminder, Aaron Glenn has some ties in there with some of the Rams past. And then Dennis Allen. Why Dennis Allen? Well, Dennis Allen, defensive coordinator, former head coach in D.C., because of his connections, and I think because he's got that defensive mind, and because he worked with Glenn in New Orleans, all of those reasons why I could see them bringing in Dennis Allen. But are you guys okay bringing back Dennis Allen here to the Raiders? Different rule, though. Let's go to the next name coming up here, and it's Steve Spagnuolo. And there was a report that came in from Albert Breer that said that Tom Brady likes Spags, and if they don't end up getting Ben Johnson or Pete Carroll, Spags is a name to keep in mind. But he interviewed with the Raiders on the 10th, and he was the Giants' interim head coach in 2017. I think it's a smart interview hire no matter what, just to get a little bit of a inside look on your division rival, whether you want to hire him or not. Personally, I think Spagnuolo is built to be a DC, and he doesn't have that head coach swagger that I'm looking for. But if Spags is the hire, this is what I think he ends up going with. I think he tries to bring in Mike Borgonzi, who right now is the Chiefs' assistant general manager, and a lot of people think that he might be taking that Tennessee job, so something to keep in mind. Joe Blymeyer, who is the pass game coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs and has been a name that's been thrown out there as a next potential OC. Definitely to keep in mind. And then I think they're going to go with Lou, who was just let go by the Cincinnati Bengals, former DC. The reason why Lou's name is going to get brought up is because for a long time, the one defense that would give Patrick Mahomes some fits, and if you remember, everybody was talking like, oh, Joe Burrow owns Patrick Mahomes. The Bengals own Kansas City. It's because those first 3 games, the Bengals defense did make Mahomes struggle a little bit more. They went 3-0. So I know this for a fact that a lot of people in Kansas City, Spags in particular, a lot of those front office guys love the defensive mind that Luke Anarumo, I can never pronounce his last name, but he was the DC for the Bengals, and I know how bad that defense was this past year for Cincy. They did also, though, have a lot of injuries. So coming up here, who I think the Raiders could potentially pair with Pete Carroll. And I'm somebody where I think right now option 1 is Ben Johnson, option number 2 is Pete Carroll, and then the Raiders would probably try to figure it out from there on out. So coming up, I'm going to tell you who I think the Raiders would try to pair with Pete Carroll if they miss out on Ben Johnson, to make sure that y'all never miss. You know what? Shooters shoot, and I think PrizePicks gives me that opportunity to have fun no matter what games I'm deciding to watch, whether it's a football game, basketball game, baseball game. PrizePicks, I'm telling you what, I absolutely love them because they are the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win, up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. If you're trying to run your game with Jeremy Chuggs, this is his lineup that he is going with for the divisional round. If you want to take a screenshot, if you want to rock out with his picks, seriously, right here, prizepicks.com/CLNS. That link is going to be in the comments. It's going to be in the description of today's show. So if you think Derrick Henry is going to get more rushing yards up against the Buffalo Bills, go more. If you think somebody like, I don't know, C.J. Stroud is going to throw for more yards against Kansas City, go for the more. I'll also say this, and maybe this isn't the best advice, but if you're rooting for a player, if you're rooting for a team, go more. You're just going to have a lot of funny cheering on that guy. Let's go to Pete Carroll, and who am I going to place with Pete? So the Raiders had a long interview Monday with Carroll. They spent the entire day with him on January 13th, and I know that he's old. I know that he's got a lot of head coaching experience, but what's really important in this mix is Jed Hughes helped Pete Carroll get a job back in 2014 with the Seattle Seahawks. So who do I think that the Raiders will try to pair with Pete Carroll? This is the name that I'm going to go with. So if Carroll is brought in, I was told that they would look to be able to also bring in somebody that's got head coaching experience on the offensive side. Ed Dodds was a part of the regime in Seattle as well when Carroll went there, and Dodds has been somebody that has started his NFL career with the Raiders, has interviewed multiple times for the Raiders. Ed Dodds also worked with Frank Reich. Frank Reich is somebody who has a lot of love and gets a lot of respect from Tom Brady, and Reich is one of those people where people say, maybe he's just an OC. Maybe he's not built to be a head coach, because when he was head coach, those teams did not do well. When he was an OC, his teams did very, very well. And then the last name that I'm going to throw in there is Robert Saleh. And I say that because I was told that if the Raiders hire Pete Carroll, that they would try to bring in a predecessor for him because he's obviously 73. If they brought in Carroll, that tells me that they're also, I think, looking maybe for a little bit more of a defensive-minded guy, simply because the offensive guy is Ben Johnson. And if you don't get Ben Johnson, I could see them looking at somebody like Robert Saleh. And so for Saleh, who a lot of people think he's going to go to San Francisco, maybe you bring in Pete, you build an unbelievable Frank Reich, Robert Saleh, Ed Dodds. That's a lot of really good trios in there. But then also you tell Robert, hey, when Pete Carroll decides to hang it up, which could be any year now, we're going to promote you to head coach. So that was my prediction there. Speaking of Saleh, though, let's go to him because the Raiders requested to interview Saleh, and they will interview him on Thursday, January 16th. He was the Jets head coach from 2021 to 24. I think he's a little bit built better to be a defensive coordinator, though he did get the short end of the stick, I would say, with New York. If the Raiders decided to hire Robert Saleh to be their head coach, I would say that they would go with general manager Jon-Eric Sullivan. Why is that the case? For those that do not know, as it stands right now, Saleh is actually a member of the Packers coaching staff. Because he's a member of the staff there, he also has ties with Jon-Eric Sullivan. For those of you that do not know, Robert Saleh is also best friends with Matt LaFleur. In fact, those two were like in each other's wedding. And I could see them going out and hiring Mike LaFleur, the OC of the Rams. And some of you are going, why the hell would the OC of the Rams leave to be the OC of the Raiders? Because Mike LaFleur is not the one calling the plays in with the Rams. Sean McVay is. So he could finally get an opportunity to be the play caller, to be the legit OC, and that's why he's here. And then I would say they just bring in Jeff Ulbrich, who is the DC interim head coach of the Jets. Those two have a really solid connection, and that's solid staff. Let's go to Todd Monken next up here on the show. Hopefully everybody's enjoying this. I know it's a little bit different from what I typically do, and I'm going to go through these next few names a little bit quicker because I don't think there's as much of a chance that they happen. For a guy like Todd Monken, and he's done a lot of good stuff at Georgia, worked well with Brock Bowers, did a lot of good stuff, obviously, with Lamar Jackson here over the past 2 seasons. Though there is not an interview set time, the Raiders did at least request to interview him. If the Raiders go out and they hire Monken, I'm just going to go with the candidate that I think is the most likely. I would say right now, if I was a betting man, John Spytek is the most likely to be the next Raiders GM. So I'm going to throw him on here. And I couldn't just do the same names over and over and over again, so let's get a little bit crazy, shall we? What if the OC and the DC from Georgia said, I'm going to join, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to get on this Monken staff, and we're going to try to recreate what Georgia was able to do in college football. It's crazy, but that's my guess. And then the last and final name here is Vance Joseph. The Raiders requested to interview Joseph January 13th. I know when this one happened, everybody was like, oh, this is Rooney Rule. Oh, it's Rooney Rule. In fact, I saw people debating about it before the live show even started. Technically, you only need to interview 2 minority candidates, and Robert Saleh and Aaron Glenn could be those candidates. Now, if they don't end up interviewing Saleh because he maybe takes another head coaching job, the Jags are a team to keep in mind, then sure, Joseph could be that Rooney Rule candidate. But I also know that Joseph is a respected DC. And if they were to do this, let's just go crazy. John Spytek at GM. Spytek brings in his old buddy Byron Leftwich because Leftwich was on the staff when Tom Brady ended up winning the Super Bowl and when Vance Joseph was hired the very first time to be a head coach of the Denver Broncos back in 2017, he hired Joe Woods, who right now is currently the New Orleans Saints DC. If the Saints bring in a new head coach, that means Joe Woods might be on his way out. That's the Vance Joseph staff. But really, this one, I really don't think it's going to happen because Vance Joseph ain't going to happen. So if you want more Raiders videos, and if you made it this far in today's show, drop a like button. It is a good way, it's a good indicator to show me, to show Chugs, to show my bosses here at Chat Sports the content that you like. And don't get me wrong, I love talking about news. I love talking about rumors, but I also like being able to do these shows because they're fun to me. It's like painting a picture. It's like putting a puzzle together, and if you want more content like that, you're going to get it this offseason because it's the craziest offseason of all time. Do you believe in what Tom Brady is doing so far? Give me a yes. Give me a no. What do y'all think? Do you believe in what Tom Brady is doing so far? Yes or no? I don't see how you don't believe in it. You all right? Oh, okay. Yes or no down below. I see Leo, Blinky, Kathleen. There's a lot of yes, and I think there's a lot of yeses because for the first time since I've been covering the Raiders, for the first time ever, I feel like the Raiders are making smart personnel coaching decisions. And they're not just slinging from the hip, right? Like, they are doing this the right way. They are going about it in the right way. And we are getting people like Ben Johnson where we would have never had the opportunity to get before. And also, I think good organizations are built from the top. So the fact that Tom Brady encourages Mark Davis to go out and get a guy like Jed Hughes, again, if you don't know who Jed Hughes is, all it takes is a quick little Google search and you'll realize that the Raiders bringing in Jed Hughes is what every Raider fan wants. Stability, and they don't want just a quick fix. They want something where it's like, all right, the next head coach we bring in, they're going to be here for the long haul. And if the Raiders bring in Ben Johnson, I think he's guaranteed to be the Raiders' next head coach for 3 years, even if they went 0-34. That's how much. Give me some yeses. Daniel Jimenez, what up, bro? I see fewer. I see Tex Raider. A very hopeful yes, bro. I feel you on that one. L.I. Raider, depends. Needs some results first. I agree. But I'm saying based on what you've seen right now, like to me, the number one way that I could say yes to this, and the reason why I thought of this is because Mark Davis saying that the Raiders are not interested in Deion Sanders tells me that he's got the right people talking in his ear. Because like any other year, if Mark knew how much money Deion would make him, and Mark's got to have an understanding, for Mark to say no and for the Raiders to say no as quickly as what they did, that tells me that Mark's got the right people in his ear. Because Mark any other time would have been like, Deion Sanders, money, cha-ching, cha-ching, let's bring him in here a little bit. They're doing the right things. Dude, it's freezing in here. When you open that door, I could feel the amount of heat that started to come in here. Like, I'm glad I got my hoodie on because it's not the middle of the summer. I got my hoodie on. What up, nation? Hopefully everyone's pumped up for all this Ben Johnson news. Coming up next here on the show, I think John Spytek's going to be the Raiders general manager, and I got an entire show wrapped up around it. Before I get into that segment, I say we go through some super chats here. Hashtag Raiders or super chat. You get those questions, comments on the show. If you don't know what a super chat is, think of it as like a Disney fast pass. You can either wait in line with the hashtag Raiders or you can jump into the front of the line with a super. What up?
That's me.
Beto. Yeah, that is you. Trying to see everybody in that picture. Worried about Max. Just watched the new Rush episode. He seemed pretty checked out, and when asked if he wanted to recruit anyone, he declined. I talked to Max this weekend, and I talked to the guys from the Rush podcast this weekend. I'm not going to say everything that we talked about because, it's sometimes what you got to do, and it's a shitty thing to say because I don't like saying that on this show. But from what I understand, Max wants a new deal. Max has got to get a brand new deal, and if he doesn't get a new deal, we're going to run into some issues. I think also Max wants to see how things plays out. The biggest thing for Max this offseason is he only wants to focus on the things that he can focus, which is going out there and playing football. I think somebody gave Max some advice and said, hey, man, we got to stop maybe being so vocal about I want to keep Antonio Pierce, and not because they didn't want to keep AP, but because AP didn't work. And because AP didn't work, that's something where people can go back and say, well, Max, you told us to do that. I think what Max is doing is what he should do. He's focused on what he can control. And the only thing that Max Crosby can control is what he does on the field. And he's going to be putting in the time. He's putting in the effort. He's going out there. He's doing the things. But Raider fans should be worried that Max could get traded this offseason because there is a chance that it happens. I'm not saying it's a high chance. I think the chance is very unlikely. The Raiders don't want it to happen. Max doesn't want it to happen. But I have been somebody that said it's never going to happen. And I'm telling you this offseason, there is a chance it could happen. What up, Lamont? Sounds like BJ wants to be like the Niners coach. He hired Lynch. Also sounds like long-term deal. And does TB like our DC? Finger in my nose thinking. I think everybody in the NFL likes and respects Patrick Graham. But the name that I have been told is George Edwards. He is the linebackers coach for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And based on what he thinks in terms of running a defense, based on what John Spytek thinks in terms of running a defense, based on connections, I think George Edwards is a name that I don't be surprised if you start hearing about it just a little bit more is all I'm going to say. What up, MP? Ben Johnson to Chicago. This channel gives false hope.
Oh, MP.
I mean,
sorry, buddy.
Who's that? Is that Caleb Williams in the photo?
Yeah, he's a Bears fan.
All right, MP. I'm just telling you, man, be ready. Because Ben Johnson, if Ben Johnson doesn't go to the Raiders, I actually don't think that he's going to the Bears. I think he would. The only other team that he might be able to go to, but the Cowboys would have to make him wait. I would be surprised if Ben Johnson goes to Chicago. I think there's a reason why they're taking Mike McCarthy interviews. What up, Nico? Left nut for BJ. And that's the Raiders' mentality. The Raiders' mentality right now is they are all in on Ben Johnson. There's a reason why the Raiders didn't request to interview Mike McCarthy, because when you got your main piece and you got your focus on where it is, you don't need to look other ways. The Bears, they're looking other places because I think they know a lot of the things that, unfortunately, Bears fans don't know yet. What up, Tony? you really undersold the Bears. You know better.
Oh, the crash out whenever the Bears end up signing like Mike McCarthy or Kellen Moore.
I mean, the Chicago Bears, Tony, have never had a quarterback throw for 4,000 yards. If I'm Johnson, and I know, sure, you got Caleb Williams, but if you've also had an organization that, let's be honest, if there's any organization, maybe the Browns deserve to be in that conversation, that have been worse at being able to find talent at the quarterback spot, it's been Chicago. Tony, I hear you, and I get it. You're putting your Bears fandom on just like I'm putting my Raiders cap on. But I would say as a for somebody who, if I were to be as right down the middle as possible, I would say there's a 60% chance Ben Johnson goes to the Raiders compared to maybe only a 40% chance that he goes to Chicago. I would say there is a better chance that he goes to the Raiders, and a lot of people are reporting the same thing. Carlos, buying my Ben Johnson jersey as we speak. Carlos, to the moon. Akash, would you trade for Dak? Also, what GM will BJ want? So
this was before our last segment.
So before the last segment, I think John Spytek, or I had that list 4 logo up. Spytek, Ray Agnew, he's the assistant GM for the Lions. Also, Jon-Eric Sullivan, who the Raiders requested today. The only reason why Sullivan's on this list is because there's a reason why he was requested. To me, it's got to be because either Ben or Pete Carroll said something. And then Lance Newmark, he's worked with Ben Johnson before. This is Newmark's first season with Washington. He was with Detroit before that. Let's go to TJ. What should we do with the 6th pick?
Trade it. For a quarterback.
To me, if you don't have a quarterback yet, you got to go balls deep and try to go get one. You got to get a QB this offseason. If the Raiders already have a quarterback, I am okay with trading back. And I'm okay trading back because of the amount of holes and missing pieces we have. But you can't answer this question until draft night. April 24th, we'll be live for it because what they can do in free agency could totally change my answer here with the 6th pick. Erickson, tough question, but day one, where would you rank BJ as a head coach? Just curious, since our division roughly with arguably 3 Hall of Fame coaches. I love this question, okay? And I think Ben Johnson, the moment he becomes a head coach in the NFL, is a top 10 head coach in the National Football League. The moment he becomes a head coach. Now, I don't know where he ranks that means for the AFC West, because you can make an argument that the AFC West has the best coaches out of any division in the National Football League, right? Like, you could make that argument. But I would say Ben Johnson is a legit top 10 coach just based on the resume that he's been able to put forward from a play calling standpoint. Let's go to Brandon. Was this always the plan? Keep AP for 1 year, wait for Ben Johnson since he didn't want a head coach forever in 2024 season? It was not the plan at all. Like, I was actually telling Chugs this today where I go, I'm actually curious if the Patriots never fired Gerard Mayo, what this conversation would be like, because when everything, and the reason why I made a video going, there's still a chance that the Raiders fire Antonio Pierce the day after the press conference, and I know I got a lot of hate for it because you don't see as much things reported around Mike Vrabel going to the Raiders, and then everything, bang, quickly stopped the way that it did unless there was some actual rumors there. Like, Mike Vrabel was the top name Brady wanted, and then they changed, and then Brady went to his plan B, and I think his plan B was Ben Johnson, and then realized, holy shit, I might be able to go out and get this guy, and now that's where the concentration has been. But, like, real talk, if AP would have finished this year with a winning record, I mean, even like 9-8, 10-7, and you had an opportunity to go get Ben Johnson, it might have been an unpopular thing for me to do, and I know I would have got a lot of hate for it, but I think even then you would have got to go, I think maybe you should bring in Ben Johnson. Let's go to L.I. Raider. If PG leaves, who are you looking for our new DC? The name to keep in mind is George Edwards. It's a name that I've been told that John Spytek is looking at in Tampa Bay, and I love PG, but I would say at this point, based on the way Jed Hughes' philosophy is on building teams, and if you want Ben Johnson, I think it also means that you don't want Patrick Graham because Ben's going to bring in everything new, right? If Ben Johnson comes in, it's going to be new DC, it's going to be new OC, it's going to be new everything. And as much as I love Patrick Graham, I want Ben Johnson more. MP, Raiders can't even tank properly, trash team. I mean, I feel like that's coming from the Chicago Bears, a team that
it's owned by the Packers every year.
They did beat Green Bay this year.
Oh, nice. Good job.
They did. I don't disagree with you, MP, that we can't tank properly. You got me. I don't know what you want me to say. Like, you got me. Lost in your mom. Mitch, forgot to ask you this a couple weeks ago. How do you feel the Raiders creating a rule that if you get a DUI, you could get cut and zero guarantee? I actually don't know how Mark Davis hasn't done it already. I don't know how you even let a guy like Janarius Robinson step foot on the field. I don't even know how you let Charles Snowden take a step on the field. And honestly, I think it's one of the things that I go back and I look at and I go, I wanted Antonio Pierce to be a man and actually have a adult conversation with those players, but AP was unable to do that. I know if I was the head coach and those two guys did what they did after the whole Henry Ruggs situation, especially when every Raiders player gets free Ubers, gets free transportation. So the fact that this shit keeps happening is just a selfishness factor that we can't have anymore in this organization. What up, Nico? Saw a story that said Brady is doing everything possible to make sure Mahomes can never surpass his GOAT status. I F with that if it were true. I don't know if Brady's ever going to come out and admit that. Like, I don't know if he's going to Eric Dickerson, Saquon Barkley like that. You know what I'm saying? Though, but why would any competitor want to be passed?
Every old head, every person that, like, remember that the Brett Favre doc where it's the guy who lost his sack. He had the sack record for the year, and it lost it to Michael Strahan because that last sack where Brett Favre basically just fell down.
Sure.
Dude, if he's mad about that years after that and the competitor that he was, Brady's known for his being a competitor, being the ultimate competitor.
You don't make it to the NFL. You don't become the greatest quarterback of all time unless you are that insane type of a competitor, especially when you're not given the God-given abilities like a lot of these other quarterbacks are, right? Like, nobody on Madden is going to make a quarterback with the same attributes as Tom Brady. You're not going to do it. I'm telling you right now, if I give you the opportunity to make any quarterback you want on Madden, it's not going to be a QB with the skill set of Tom Brady. I'll tell you that. But because Brady has that competitive fire, and if I'm Brady, it's a selling point to Mark Davis. If I'm Tom Brady, it's a selling point to Ben Johnson. It's a selling point of, you want to be the best? You got to take down the best. Help me take down the best in Patrick Mahomes. I love that mentality. Jay Castro, what draft grade do you give Shedeur? Like, where I would take him, if I were to give him a draft grade, I would give him a mid to late first round grade. Like, he's not a quarterback that I think should go in the top 10.
Paul, that's some dedication right there, brother.
Though, I do think, just like my Bo Nix, Sean Payton argument, I will stand 10 toes on if the Raiders would have drafted Bo Nix and you put Bo Nix with Luke Getsy, it would have been a disaster and Bo Nix would look like Zach Wilson. I will stand 10 toes on that. Just like, though, I agree with, if you put Shedeur on a lot of other teams, I think he's going to struggle. But if you put Shedeur with Tom Brady, somebody that he's worked with, somebody that he talks to all the time, it makes the transition to the NFL that much easier. When you get that much easier of a transition, it can be a big difference. So,
holy shit.
I think Shedeur to the Raiders is a lot different than Shedeur on a lot of other teams out there in the NFL. Hopefully that makes sense. Castro, appreciate the question.
You need to read Paul's comment.
Who?
Paul.
I miss watching y'all boys. I'm texting from prison. I managed to keister a Galaxy S up my... I'm trying to get better, man. I miss the outside world. I hope I get out of here soon. Miss watching. I mean, honestly, Paul's photo kind of looks like it's up his keister. It's just a lot of a flash up there.
Can we spam Paul in the comments?
There's nobody working harder than Paul right now. MP, you were just as hype about getting the number 1 pick. Sure. Yeah, I don't know what. Honestly, MP, at this point, I don't even know where you're going with this. Raiders 187. What about Dodds as GM? Going to be a name to keep in mind. And I think it's going to be somebody that the Raiders try to bring in because of he's been somebody that's interviewed for the job every time, and he's got a great relationship with Davis.
Nico Laz says an S7. That's a wide-ass phone, my guy.
I mean, is it a flip phone? I'm just happy he didn't get a flip phone. Remember the Envy? You just slide it a little bit. He's in there sliding it around. A Razor? Yikes. Left nut for BJ. writing up for quarterback. Give the shaft to the AFC West next season. I almost want to put that on a t-shirt, but that's a mouthful. That's a mouthful right there. To the 1,500 people watching right now, if you're all in on Ben Johnson of Las Vegas, spam BJ down below. We got one more super, and then we're going to get into the final segment here on the Raiders Report. Also, I got to get some other people in for this duck race. I see Martin Fleetwood. Martin, that's a hell of a name. Martin Fleetwood in. I see, oh man, we got a bunch of people now. Moshav in. Rob Fravor in. Richard Rodriguez in. Timothy Acker in. Dylan Erickson. Luis Ville. The Great Tuna. Jason Goots. $10 Venmo. As it stands right now, you would go home with $115 here on the show. Raiders 187. What coach do you think will get hired next and where?
McCarthy.
You think
Saints.
McCarthy? McCarthy Saints is an intriguing one, but I think that one could go a little bit longer. Robert Saleh interviews on Thursday with the Raiders. I don't know when he interviews with the Jags. I could see the Jags being a team because they know they're not going to get Ben that tries to go out and hire a head coach a little bit sooner rather than later. The Jags could be a name. The Saints for McCarthy or Aaron Glenn would be my other prediction there. But this head coaching search, dude, is going to be wild. Let's go to John Michael. What's up, John?
Jingleheimer Schmidt.
What quarterback do you think fits Ben Johnson best available? Shedeur Sanders. If you're saying in the draft, it's Shedeur Sanders. If you're saying in free agency, again, I think Ben Johnson can work with any quarterback. Like, I really do. I think Ben's going to be smart in terms of whatever skill set I have at the quarterback position, that's going to be a guy that I look at to go out and get. And I think Ben's going to be able to do that. I really do. All right, y'all, let's get into the final segment here on today's show. And it's going to be me making a bold prediction saying that I think that the Raiders are going to go out and I think that the Raiders are going to hire John Spytek to be their next general manager. I like doing these types of shows. I'm not reporting news. I know the show's called The Raiders Report. I am not a beat reporter. I don't want to be a beat reporter. I am a Raiders fan that talks about the Raiders, and I give you my opinion. Do I have sources? Yes. Do I talk to people? Yes. But what I say, I am not reporting the news. I am simply just putting out a projection, and I'm simply just putting out a guess.
Yeah.
But I think we get a lot of guesses right here on the show.
I would say so.
We got a good hit rate, right? You don't get to 183,000 subs unless you got a good hit rate. And once in a while,
our take on Bo Nix.
You know, it's one of those things where we were right and wrong on Bo Nix. And I don't think anybody can say that we were wrong. We just weren't maybe 100% right? And I mean, there's still a lot of time left. If Bo Nix regresses the same way C.J. Stroud regressed in his second year, Bo Nix might be out of the NFL.
Paul, I just got to let you know, the whole office is talking about you now.
Who?
Paul.
Oh, yeah, Paul. We got a Slack channel here at Chat Sports, and Paul has just become a very popular name. Let's just say that. Honestly, Paul, I'm curious what your phone number is because there's a few people that want to know if it's on vibrate and if we can call you.
Oh, my God.
That's all I'm going to say, Paul. Coming up, let's talk about the Raiders and who they could potentially hire as a GM because I'm going to stake my case. I'm going to say that I think it's going to be John Spytek, and I think when you get done watching this next show, you're going to go, holy shit, I think the Raiders are going to end up hiring John Spytek. Coming up here on the Raiders Report, I'm going to tell you why I believe the Silver and Black could end up hiring GM candidate John Spytek to be the next general manager here of the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm Mitchell Renz. This is the Raiders Report. And if you're always looking for news and updates around the Silver and Black, make sure you're subscribed. So some of you might be going, Mitch, who is Mr. Spytek? Well, for those that do not know, the Raiders requested to interview him on January 14th. He is going to interview for the GM job. He also had 2 years as the assistant general manager down with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but he's been working in the NFL for 21 years. Buccaneers.com had this to say on John Spytek, and I wanted to be able to give you this a little bit more background information on who the person that I am saying I believe the Raiders are going to hire Spytek to be their next GM. As an assistant general manager, Spytek works closely with Buccaneers general manager Jason Litch regarding the NFL draft, key free agent acquisitions, and all other personnel decisions. Spytek oversees the day-to-day operations of the college and pro scouting department for Tampa Bay. He is responsible for administering free agency preparation and evaluating talent through the NFL and other professional football leagues. Since joining the Buccaneers in 2016, Tampa Bay has clinched 4 playoff appearances, 6 playoff victories, 3 NFC South division titles, and a Super Bowl championship. The team's 6 playoff wins since 2016 are tied for 5th most in the NFL during that span. To look at, again, a little bit more background information on Spytek and his NFL experience, he's been working in the league since 2004. And he's bounced around a little bit, but the fact that he's been able to hold down a job in Tampa Bay since 2016, and this is an organization that does have a lot of respect for Mark Davis and has a lot of respect, for Mark himself. But for him to be able to stay for one team since 2016, almost 10 years, I think speaks volumes of how good John Spytek is. For more news and for more updates around the Raiders and that GM search, I'm telling you, nobody's going to put in the time, nobody's going to put in the effort like the Raiders Report does. If you want this team to get back to just win, baby, back to commitment to excellence, Tom Brady's doing a lot of the right things. And I think Tom Brady is the biggest reason why Spytek is going to be the next GM here. So what I decided to do is this. I decided to make a show, and I'm going to break down a lot of the reasons why Spytek to Las Vegas is loading, and where there's smoke, there's fire. So the first reason is this. The Raiders interviewed him back in 2022. A lot of the times, Mark is a guy where he falls usually into a trap. This time, he's falling into a smart decision of bringing back a guy that they already interviewed. Because if I was looking for a job in 2022, and I'm also looking for a job now, I would go back and I would revisit where I went right and where I went wrong. Mark Davis, though, the fact that he was on board for interviewing Spytek even before Tom Brady, I think for Mark is one of those things that he's like, okay, this makes me feel a little bit more safe about this decision that I might have to make. Also, I think it's a fact that you could make an argument that them not choosing Spytek during Tom Telesco, during Dave Ziegler, end up proving to be the wrong decision. And he's been wanted candidate by multiple NFL teams for multiple years now. And a lot of times I always talk about finding a young, offensive-minded head coach. I think it's also important to find a young, smart-minded guy that works free agency, draft, and has been a part of an organization, a successful organization, for a long time. John Spytek's got all of those credentials that I look for in a GM. Let's go to the next reason here. He helped to get Tom Brady to Tampa Bay. And I know a lot of times you go back and you think, I don't know if y'all remember the rumors, the speculation around Tom Brady, all the teams that he was potentially thinking about going to. One of the biggest reasons why he went to the Buccaneers was because of Spytek. And when you go back and you look at some reports, when you go look at some of the interesting things that Buccaneers beat reporters wrote, a lot of the beat reporters that had the news that Brady was going to Tampa Bay were right because of Spytek's connection with Tom Brady. Then Brady ended up winning that Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs in 2020. So you're telling me Mark Davis has got to be looking at Spytek going, so you brought in Tom Brady, you've been here for a long time, you were able to win right away, and you beat Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. That's going to get Mark's attention. And when TB12 was with Spytek, with the Buccaneers for those 3 years, they were 32-18 in the regular season, 5-2 in the postseason with a Super Bowl victory. Spytek, telling you, going to be the next GM. So here's my question. Do you want the Raiders to hire Spytek as GM? Give me a yes. Give me a no. You're about to get hit with a YouTube ad break. While that ad is playing, I want you to scroll on down and give me your answer. I say whoever Ben Johnson wants is who I want the next GM to be. But on top of that, there is a reason why Spytek was one of the first candidates that was asked. There is a reason why all these reports out there that the Raiders are all in, are enamored with Ben Johnson, and then Spytek's name gets brought up. Relationships are very important to Tom Brady, and I promise you this, when you get done watching today's video, you're going to go, I want John Spytek to be the GM, and I think John Spytek's going to be the GM. Let's go to the next reason here. I don't know if y'all know this. Mr. Spytek was teammates with Tom Brady at Michigan. It was only 1 year, but Brady loves his Michigan alum, and Spytek's got that Michigan alum in him. So Spytek played for the Wolverines from 1999 to 2002, 1 year with Tom Brady, but it was Brady's final year with the Wolverines, a year that he was a captain, the quarterback, the big leader on that team. Also, Brady has spoke a lot about how he thought his time at Michigan helped him become the leader, helped him become the person, helped him become the football mind that he is today. Spytek literally wrote a book called A Wolverine Life, Jon Spytek. They have been solid friends for at least 25 plus years. So when you add friendship, when you add the teammate connection, when you add everything that Brady is looking for from an NFL, college football, friendship standpoint, it's starting to look a lot more like Spytek to the Raiders. I'll get into another reason coming up here in just a moment, but I got to tell you all about our sponsor here. And if anybody is ever looking for last-minute tickets, and if you're ever looking for a good deal, Game Time has got you covered. And everything that I'm about to say about Game Time, those links are going to be in the live video. They're also going to be down in the comments and in the description of today's show. Game Time has got a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for live events easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. What I love most about using Game Time is that lowest price guarantee to any ticket, to any event, whether you're going to a football, baseball, basketball, hockey, theater event, what have you. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Raider Nation, what are you waiting for? What time is it? It's Game Time. And this has been an app that I've gotten my dad. I got my dad Mets Brewers playoff tickets. I was able to get my dad, or technically my future father-in-law, Alex's dad, tickets to a Raiders Cowboys game. Remember that preseason game a few years ago? Was able to get tickets to that. I have used Game Time a bunch. Chug's got Adele tickets for his fiance. My point is, we use Game Time for some of the most important people in our life, and I hope that y'all know that we've been able to build a really cool relationship here on this YouTube channel. And I always say it's a lot more than a YouTube show. It's a community. So if I trust Game Time for my most important people, I hope you trust Game Time for you and your most important people as well. Let's go to the next reason here of why I think Spytek to Las Vegas is slowly loading here. That general manager interview request. It's something about the timing of it. And timing in the NFL is everything. It's literally why I started saying where there's smoke, there's fire, because if there's one league that really leads you to where it's going, it's the NFL. So the fact that this was the second interview that the Raiders asked for, that piques my interest. The fact that it's right after reports and everything around the Raiders being enamored and that Ben Johnson is the front guy for the job, that's the guy Tom Brady wants. Why wouldn't Tom Brady also try to bring in somebody that he's very good with and be able to show like, hey, if I want to get Ben Johnson to the Raiders, I got to show Ben that I'm going to have success. What's the best way to show success? Showing that you've already done it. So the fact that if I'm Brady and I'm painting that picture to Ben, I go, well, here's what we did in Tampa Bay, and here's what we're going to do for the Raiders, and we've already were able to show you that we're able to take down Patrick Mahomes. We already showed you that we are able to win a Super Bowl. And I get it. It's different when Tom Brady is the quarterback. But I think it's the fact that they are trying to build that type of thing, and the fact that they were already able to do it. Then you add Ben Johnson into the mix. It makes it really, really interesting. And then the last reason is this, and this one's going to take me a little bit longer. Spytek fits what Jed Hughes is looking for a GM. And if you're like, Mitch, why does Jed Hughes matter? You need to look up who Jed Hughes is. The Raiders hired him. This was a video that I did last week. It's got almost 100,000 views on it. It might be the #1 video that I've ever done here on the Raiders Report. That's not a live show. But Spytek has shown that he has turned into a top GM candidate. And when you see a lot of the things that Jed Hughes talks about, I'll kind of break it down here in a little bit. But the fact that he was built in a Buccaneers organization, that shows a lot. And the fact that Spytek would be a first-year GM, all of those reasons fit Jed Hughes' GM criteria, and there's a reason why Tom Brady ended up hiring him. There's a reason why Mark Davis hired him, because they want to find somebody that thinks alike as them. And Jon Spytek fits all of Jed Hughes' I guess, things he's looking for. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to roll through some quotes, and I talked about these quotes last week, but here are things that Jed Hughes looks for when he's looking for a head coach and a GM, because he is hired often by a bunch of NFL, NBA, MLB organizations to find the right head coach and GM. It varies depending on the assignment, but initially, it is to gain alignment on what the organization is looking for. And then, once you gain the alignment, then you begin to look for potential candidates who would fit. Then, depending on if you are in the NFL and if you have rules as to when you can interview people, you have to seek permission. You begin the interviewing and assessment phase. So to me, I look at that and I go, he's already shown that he has the alignment with Tom Brady. They've already shown you that they can win together, and Hughes believes GMs are made, not born. So the fact that Spytek has been on this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team since 2016, and he's been learning, he's been getting better. He wasn't just made into a GM, but he learned how to be a GM. And one of the things that GM's got to do is you got to be aggressive. You know, it's pretty aggressive going out and taking Tom Brady from the New England Patriots, taking Tom Brady away from Bill Belichick, and recruiting him to you down in Tampa Bay, a team that not a lot of people thought that that's where Tom Brady was going to end up going. That's what a good GM ends up doing. Let's keep it rolling here on these Jed Hughes quotes. We looked at teams that have won championships in major professional sports leagues in the last 5 years, and almost all of them have done it with a first-time GM, which is pretty incredible. And I agree. I also think that it is pretty incredible. But I also say this, John Spytek would be a first-time general manager, and he also comes with 2 years of assistant general manager experience under Jason Licht, who is regarded as one of the best GMs in the National Football League. I also think first-time GMs work because you get to build it your way. And building it your way, I know it's not Burger King here, but Spytek and Ben Johnson, y'all can have it your way. Keep it going here with Hughes. The other thing is stability. A word that Max Crosby used on his podcast the other day, and he said his word for 2025 is stability. Look what has happened with the Mets. This quote is from back in 2016, by the way. The Mets hired Sandy Alderson. He hired the coach Fred Wilpon, has supported him, and they have only been able to build a team that is now competitive. You had alignment. You had stability. People bought into the philosophy, and Sandy is one of the truly great leaders as it relates to collaboration and bringing people into meetings and having lunch bucket kind of meetings. Most organizations are not built on developing people within their organizations. They are built to try to win immediately. And when you go back and hear that, that's exactly what Mark Davis and the Raiders have tried to do. They haven't tried to build from within. They tried to win quickly, and they've tried to put a Band-Aid over an open wound. For Spytek, he's been with Tampa since 2016. The Bucs have won the 5th most playoff games since 2016, and Max Crosby talks about stability. Everything Spytek has done and everything that a guy like Jed Hughes believes in finding the next GM, it aligns so perfectly with John Spytek. So once I got done and I found all the information of why Spytek aligns with Jed Hughes and his relationship with Tom Brady and the fact that Mark Davis already gave him the check in terms of this is a guy I would be interested in way before Brady. For all of those reasons is why I can confidently look you in the eyes and I would go this. I am a believer that the next general manager for the Las Vegas Raiders is going to be John Spytek because of his relationship with Tom Brady, because of everything aligning with Jed Hughes, and because Mark Davis said yes before. I think it's going to be John Spytek. I just hope it's also with Ben Johnson. So do you believe in what Tom Brady is doing so far? Give me a yes, give me a no. And I think after you watch that video, am I the only one where I'm like, bro, it's going to be Spytek? There's a lot of things in there where I was like, when I was building and I was looking, and, you know, I'm the Raider fan where I wasn't going to do this segment. Chuck's going to even tell you. I walked in today and I was thinking of all the shows that I could do. And I'm just such a nerd in terms of being a detective where if I find something, I'm like, all right, well, let me go here. Let me go here. Let me call here. Let me text here. And I just dig and dig and dig until I'm like, there's a lot of really good information here that no matter what, even if they don't hire Spytek.
I'm the underminer.
Even if they don't hire Spytek, you're going, after watching that show, you're like, all right, there's definitely a chance that they do. And hopefully you like that show. What up, Raider Nation? King Shav Langer. I see all of y'all showing love down there below. Also, if we could hit 1,000 likes on a Tuesday show, I don't know the last time that happened. All I'm saying is I would appreciate it. So if you like today's show, wipe those feet, click that like button. Chugs, there's only one more thing left we got to do. We got to do a duck race. Final opportunity to get in and win some cold, hard
cash.
You know what you can get with cold, hard cash? A ZJ. You know what's more expensive than a ZJ? A Ben Johnson. All right, y'all, if you won in right now, the last time that I checked, it was 10 to win. It was $115. I did get a few more people, though, that ended up getting in. I see Rustin Long. You in. Sorry, Rustin, I spelled your name really wrong. A cash in. I got Christina Goyo. Can never pronounce your name. And I got my man Can't Walk. So, 10 right now to win $135 here on the show. That's pretty good. 10 to win $135. We'll still go through some supers. We'll still answer a few more questions. And then once we get out, once every single super chat is answered, then we are going to do the duck race.
TJ, get Ben Johnson, trade up for Cam Ward, sign T. Higgins, another guard.
Mr. Campbell.
Resign Spillane, Merrick, and Hobbs. Playoffs?
Get Ben Johnson, trade up for Cam Ward, sign T. Higgins, another guard. I mean, I'll tell you this right now. I do think that this would be a recipe for success. If you told me I could have Cam Ward and Ben Johnson, I would make a mess on screen. I mean, it would just be. I might get blocked of how messy it would be. Spillane would be great. Merrick would be great. Hobbs is good. I think Adam Butler is a higher priority than Nate Hobbs personally, just because of the injury risks there. But you got a lot of good stuff here. A lot of good stuff. What up, Rich Wolf? I see you, man. Is TB really helping the Raiders win to beat Kermit? You know, it's been something that people have been talking about, but of course he's really trying to do it, right? Like, why would you not, if you bought stake into a team, you're 5 to 10% owner, which is what Tom Brady is. Why would you not try to win? And it's kind of like the no duh that he's trying to be the greatest of all time, right? You die 2 times in your life. You die when you die, and you die the last time somebody mentions your name. I think Tom Brady wants to be the notorious, no doubt, I'm the greatest quarterback of all time. And you know, I think in basketball there's more debates around that where a lot of people are like, oh, it's MJ. Then a lot of people are like, it's Jordan. Or, you know, some people will say, it's Kobe. Maybe it's Wilt. I think when it comes to football, a lot of people are like, it's Tom Brady. He's the best. I think when people look at hockey, they go, it's Wayne Gretzky. He's the best. And when it's a notorious, that guy's the best, you just live in glory a lot longer. But, of course, Tom Brady wants to beat Patrick Mahomes. I would want to say the best, too. You don't get to be in the greatest of all time without being a competitor. I mean, especially when you're given the God-given abilities that Tom Brady has, which, given a lot of gifts, but not the most gifts to be the greatest of all time. You got to be an insane competitor. Spytek and BJ have any previous connections? To my current knowledge, I do not know if they do. And I'm not going to act like I do know if they do, but I think right now, if I'm a Raiders fan, the number one duo, the perfect duo that I would want is Ben Johnson and John Spytek. Venthrak, I'm excited, but so far this is all talk and not reality. When the signatures are on the dotted line, I'll be ready to celebrate, especially for the Raiders, because we celebrated last season with Cliff Kingsbury before he ever even signed a dotted line.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make sure this year that there's some lines that are signed.
That was
insane. Joe, you fit more into that segment than Paul's keister. Wow. Oh, man, what a question that is, or a comment. That's a great one.
I don't even know what to do with my hands.
Honestly, don't give them to, what's his name? They're going up. All right, Miggy, you in. And then Hugo Sanchez, you in. So nobody else is getting in. If I get anything else, you're just going to have to, you're just getting donated to Chuck's Fun. He is trying to get into Barkley. He has been a good boy. So somebody's about to go home with $150. $150 is going to be going to the winner here on today's show.
LA Crash Dog.
What's up, Gunny? Oh, wait a minute here. I missed a few. I see the one that I missed, Anthony Flores. Flores, that's on me. So actually, that means the winner now goes home with 200. Oh, math, not my strong suit.
You send it to me?
Is now winner goes to 165. So can you just add 3 more Anthony Floreses in there?
Mm-hmm.
That's the only one that I missed.
Did you add Crash Dog at the beginning?
Did I add Gunny?
Yeah, he said he sent you a 20 on Sunday, I guess.
Gunny, Gunny, I put you in. If you sent me anything, I already put you in the race then. I don't have anything today for you. I guess I don't understand, because if you sent something in on Sunday, you would have been in the race on Sunday. That's my only confusing part. So, Gunny, just let me know what you're saying. Venthrax says this could be one of the most exciting and meaningful off seasons this team has. Dude, it's been incredible. It's been incredible.
It's been incredible.
1,000 likes, big luck on a Tuesday is wild.
Did it for Paul. He said it was after live on Sunday. He just sent you a 20.
Okay, put him in twice. I mean, I do have something here from Crash Dog. Though, I think I put you in the race. It's all good. You've been fighting fires. You've been doing your thing. I trust you. Just put him in twice.
Alrighty.
I trust Gunny. All right, so that means now winner's going to go home with 175.
I mean, that makes it more even.
$175 here going to the winner. Good luck to everybody out there. Right? Is that the right number? Maybe not. 165. My bad. Math again, not my strong suit. Winner to go home, 165. 3,
My God.
2, 1. Run it. And that bass just keeps running, running, and running, running, and running, running, and running, running, and dun. All right, right now in the lead, I believe is Luigi, who is Julio Zapata right now as it stands. If you see your name spelled weird, you can blame me. I'm not good at spelling. Realistically, I'm not good at anything besides talking about the Raiders. Squirtle in a very interesting spot there at the top. Watch out for Flores. Darth. I'll tell you this, Jason Goop in the Flash costume looks like he's about to load up a bunch of energy and just, it's just going to explode everywhere. I can't wait to see it. Philip Bogert. I always knew Philip Bogert looked like a Squirtle. The question is, does he evolve into a War Turtle? Is that the name? Or a Blastoise? I know it's Blastoise.
Oh.
Christina! Who's this? Ron! Raspberry! Let's go! In the Bowser costume. Dude, Ron's been a lucky man. Let's just say that. Ron has been a very, very lucky guy. Ron, if you could please confirm that you just received $165, that would be dope as shit, man.
And
that would be dope.
I believe the next time you'll see live on the Raiders Report is Saturday.
So the next time that we will be live here on the Raiders Report is going to be Saturday, Texans versus the Chiefs. I am going to be going live a half hour before kickoff. Though, Chugs, he does our Texans show. He's going to be going live an hour before the game. So if you want to party with Chugs, dope. If you want to party with me, make sure you pull up. Make sure you're subscribed. We're not going to be live on Thursday. There's no games this Thursday, so that's why. And we're also going to be live next Monday. So the next live shows that I'm going to do, guaranteed going to do this one. And if you want me to stay live for the Lions game, I need y'all to show up here. That way I can get a producer for the next game. Because right now it's a TBD. I want to make sure that it's a locked and loaded one because I would love to be able to do the game covering Ben Johnson. I am then off on Sunday, so I'm chilling at home with Alex. We're going to watch some games there. And then Chugs and I again Monday, the college football playoff championship. Notre Dame up against Ohio State. I'm not going to lie, we're probably going to be both rooting for the Irish. Probably going to be both rooting for the Irish. Ben Johnson, I want you in Vegas. John Spytek, I think you're going to be the next GM. From me, from Jeremy Chugs, FKCs, and let's get out of here.